Mercado versus Atkinson. Step forward, please.
9/11 dispatcher Dawn Mercado is suing her former live-in boyfriend, mechanic Jeremy Atkinson, for unpaid rent, utility bills, and unpaid loans. Jeremy says she kicked him out because he didn't get along with her 5-year-old son.
Ms. Mercado, you and the defendant were boyfriend and girlfriend, and you lived together for a brief period of time in an apartment that you leased together. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Something happened. Mr. Atkinson decided to leave, according to you. He left, and you want him to be responsible for the remainder of the lease, at least his portion of the remainder of the lease. In addition, you claim that he used your credit card, made certain charges that you want to be reimbursed for.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Atkinson says that you told him to leave the apartment. You actually kicked him out of the apartment, so why should he be responsible for the rent? And that any charges that he made on your credit card, he paid you for in cash. Is that right, sir?
Yes.
Okay. When did you move in together?
He moved into my studio apartment with me in the beginning of May, and we moved into our apartment, which we had a signed lease, on June 15th.
So what happened?
We got along very well until my son was diagnosed with having mixed ADHD. Him and my son had some problems.
How old is your son?
5 years old.
What kind of problems was your son having with Mr. Atkinson, or vice versa?
They argued constantly.
He argued with a 5-year-old?
Yes, ma'am.
What were you arguing with a 5-year-old about?
It's just whenever you'd ask him to do something, he would say he'd do it and then wouldn't go do it. Like clean his room, he wouldn't do that. If you told him to go take a shower, he wouldn't do it. And I just didn't have the patience.
We found that he had a hard time focusing, and that's why he was diagnosed. He went through several psychologists, psychiatrists, family doctors. He's now on medication, and he sees a psychiatrist anywhere from 3 to 4 times a month. He is having a lot of improvement, and he had made the comment to my mom and dad that he thought Mr. Atkinson was a monster and that he was afraid to leave with him. I explained to Mr. Atkinson that I was not going to choose between him and my son, that my son was my priority, and that we had several disagreements about that. And it just led to problems between that and financial problems. And I never kicked Mr. Atkinson out. I told him I could no longer support him and that he was welcome to leave.
You said a couple of things that were pretty smart. You said, A, I wasn't going to choose between him and my 5-year-old. That's a no contest. You have to go. I am not finding that by your saying to him, there's the door, he did not take that as, I better get out of here or there's going to be difficulty. He says you threw him out. I think that that's what happened. Whatever, he's not going to pay the rent. Now let's hear about the credit card.
On several occasions, Mr. Atkinson asked to borrow money with the intention that he would pay me back.
Yes, it's true, Your Honor, but the majority of the time, money was reimbursed on my payday in the form of cash, or if I did any side work, she got the money from it.
Is that true?
He would give me cash for some of it, ma'am, but these are the things that he has not reimbursed me for.
Did you keep a running log of how much he spent and how much he reimbursed you when he paid you in cash?
No, ma'am.
That I'm not getting involved. There is absolutely no way of you determining, at least for me, how much he owes you in the months that he lived there when you had this rather fluid financial arrangement. It's over. You made a mistake. Put a period. Move on. Your parents live close by?
About 30 minutes away, ma'am.
Do they help you?
As when they can.
Good. You have another few months to pay this rent. You're going to stay in the apartment or not?
Yes, ma'am. I cannot get out of the lease.
Good. That's what I think you should do. Goodbye.
Yeah, this is case number 350 on the calendar in the matter of Armendariz versus Rodriguez. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats. Mr. Armendariz, the defendant was married to your father who died in jail recently.
Yes,
how long were you married?
14 years.
According to both of you, your father and your husband was a very difficult man. According to both of you, he had a drug problem, he had a bad temper problem, and at the time of his death,
Your Honor.
Listen to me, at the time of his death, you were separated.
Yes, ma'am.
And I also gather from reading the papers that there had been an altercation involving you and your husband, for which he was arrested. Was he taken into custody?
He was taken into custody, but they had taken him to a hospital for evaluation.
So he had problems. It is your claim, sir, that the defendant took a car that belonged to your father that he willed to you.
Yes, ma'am.
The defendant says that after the will was drafted, he gave her power of attorney over the car, and it was her car to sell and dispose of. She further says that you came into the home at some point when your father was either hospitalized or shortly after his death and sold or took all of the property in the house. Property that was their property during the 14 years that they were married.
No, ma'am.
So, shh, that's her counterclaim.
Okay.
Now, let me understand the circumstances surrounding your father's death. I believe that you moved in to take care of your father after he was released from psychiatric hospital.
I picked him up from the hospital, Your Honor.
Try to pay attention to the broader picture, sir.
Okay.
You were living with him. There was fight. He became abusive, and he was hospitalized.
Yes, ma'am.
He left the hospital, and you went to live with him.
Yes, ma'am.
When was that?
June 1st, 2002.
Now, up until 2002, you had been living with him as husband and wife. Is
Yes.
that right?
Yes, ma'am.
When was he taken to the hospital?
In June.
In June?
Yes, ma'am.
June comes, there's major altercation. He's taken off to the hospital. When he's released, you go to live with your father.
Yes, he needed medical attention, medical help with his medicine. She had left my father.
I didn't ask you anything else.
Okay.
And then there came a time that your father stabbed you in the head.
Yes.
When was that?
That was July the 12th.
So, a short period of time after they decided that he wasn't crazy and that he could leave the hospital, he stabs his son in his head, right?
He was using crack cocaine, Your Honor.
Ooh, right. Crack cocaine, drugs, not balanced, stabs you in the head. Police are called, he's arrested, and he's taken to jail.
Yes.
When did he die?
August 27th.
Where was he when he died?
He was in jail.
What did he die from?
I don't know exactly, but he had pulmonary heart disease and cirrhosis of the liver.
Sounds like he was some problem over a long period of time.
Yes, he was, and we tried to help him, Your Honor.
Where do you live?
In Dallas.
Where did he live?
Dallas.
Did you live with your husband continuously, Mrs. Rodriguez, during the 14 years that you were married up until June of 2002?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, I'd like to see a copy of your father's will, and I want to see a copy of the power of attorney that his wife says was executed after the will was executed. The date on this was changed, madam.
Yes, ma'am, it was, because I was very confused at the time. He signed it and I dated it, and I couldn't quite remember when I visited him in jail, because that was signed when he was in jail. He also...
Listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
This is invalid. Take it and throw it away. Line your garbage can with it. There was a date on there, but it was changed.
Yeah, I did that.
Well,
I did.
then it's invalid.
Yes, ma'am.
And then what you did was you went and got an affidavit of heirship for a car.
Yes, ma'am.
Saying that your husband died without a will.
Yes.
But he didn't die without a will. He had a will.
At that time, I didn't know he had a will, ma'am.
Then you were mistaken. He has a will.
I know now he had one.
And I sure think you probably knew September 12th, 2002. When did you tell your stepmother that he had a will?
I believe July 14th. July the 14th, I gave her a copy of the will that I had.
Oh, you did? Where were you when you gave her a copy of the will?
At my house. And she came over and picked it up.
So that you knew, Miss Rodriguez, that he had a will?
Then I did, yes, ma'am.
Well, you signed this in September.
Okay.
So, you knew in September, when you signed this, and swore to the fact that there was no will, that there was a will, and that the will gave the car to your son. Therefore, where is the car?
The car is in my possession.
Car is going to him. Easy. That's easy. So now we've taken care of the car. Do you understand?
Your Honor, may I speak, sir?
Yeah, sure.
When my husband was in jail, I went to go see him. And he told me then, he says, I don't want Tommy to have the car.
That's unfortunate. All I'm telling you is...
And to Your Honor...
listen to me. Listen to me carefully. He gets the car because that's what the law says. Where's the title to the car?
I have it, but it's not in my name. I've sold the car.
You sold... Just a second. Let me see the title to the car. Who did you sell the car to?
The original. We have the original.
Who did you sell the car to, Mrs. Rodriguez?
Robert.
When did you sell the car?
I sold the car
Your Honor,
profitably.
that's who she lives with.
I sold the car after I found out all this was going on because Tommy had went and sold my items in my house.
Just a second.
That's a lie,
Well,
Your
we're going to
Honor.
get to that in a second.
Yes, ma'am.
You're slick. You're being slick, and I don't like it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I also had 2 25-inch color TVs.
Your Honor, the television there at the house.
No, listen to me. I think you're a hustler. I think you're a hustler too. I have a feeling people do deserve each other.
And later today,
Miss Hamilton, what are you complaining about? You came out ahead.
Well,
You have a car. He paid a piece of that car. He has no use of that car. Come on, so far I'm unsympathetic towards your plight.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Tommy Armendariz says his stepmother owes for the value of a 1990 Beretta. Tommy says the car was left to him after his father died in jail.
Okay. Now, I don't know whether he did the wrong thing by selling the items in your house, and maybe you both deserve each other. But this is playing slick. This Robert is the person you live with?
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't ask you anything. Is this the person you live with?
Yes, ma'am.
So this is a lot of baloney, just like the other piece of paper that you gave me that was
Your Honor,
doctored
I have
up.
the title.
I didn't ask you anything. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I don't want you to say anything else till I ask you.
Yes, ma'am.
What items do you claim that he sold that belonged to you and your husband?
Oh, Lord.
Everything.
Everything that I've
Fine.
accumulated in the
Mr.
past 14
Armendariz,
years.
did you sell anything or dispose of any property that was in your father's house? Now, you make sure that I hear the truth, everything.
My father sold some of his stuff in the garage sale, and some of the stuff is still in the house right here. I've got pictures of it.
That's not what I asked you. I asked you whether you or anyone acting on
No,
your
ma'am.
behalf disposed of any property in the house.
No, ma'am.
Nothing.
Nothing. I've got pictures, Your Honor,
Let me see.
of everything she left in the house.
What was the date?
And all this stuff is still there?
15th.
Yes, ma'am. It's all there.
It's all there.
Show this to the defendant, please.
Your Honor, may I say something, please?
No, I want you to look. I want you to follow my directions.
Yes, ma'am.
That stuff is still in the house. Do you want that stuff?
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to have it, but there's still some stuff that's not there.
What?
I have 2 more blue recliners.
Do you have any evidence that he disposed of them rather than your husband disposing them?
I know they were in the house when I last went in there. I have a police report where he called the police on me.
I'm talking about you. I'm talking about from
Because
the
he's having a
time you
garage
left.
sale.
Listen to me. From the time you left till the time your husband was taken to jail, there was a period of time there that he could have disposed of certain property.
Yes.
Now, do you have any proof that he disposed of those 2 recliners that you're looking for and not your husband?
I don't have the proof of that.
Okay,
no, ma'am.
so we have no proof of that. What else is missing other than the 2 blue recliners?
An entertainment center, which is not in the picture.
Do you know
Your
anything
Honor,
about
my father sold that in the garage sale.
when?
I'm not sure on the date.
It was 5:15 is when we picked him up from Parkland. It was a week later.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. I also had 2 25-inch color TVs.
Where are those?
My father sold that in the garage sale. He was making room for us to move some of our furniture in the house. So
Why would he sell television sets?
He had a television in each of his rooms.
Well, where are the television sets that are there, sir?
He sold them.
He sold them.
No, listen to me. I have a feeling people do deserve each other. If your father had televisions in each room in the house, and I look at those pictures, and I don't see any television sets in those pictures,
There is one television in the house. I
in
forgot to
console.
take a picture of it, Your Honor.
I think you're a hustler. I think you're a hustler, too.
Your Honor, the television's there at the house. She
No,
can come and
you
get it.
said to me, listen to me. You said to me, these are the things that are in the house. And all of a sudden, you leave out certain electronic equipment.
One television, Your Honor.
No, I don't believe one television. I don't believe that your father would sell all the televisions and leave one television.
I
And
had
how many
televisions myself, Your Honor, when I moved in.
And how many televisions were there? No, don't speak. Look, talk to me.
It was about 3 or 4.
If you say another word, madam,
There
under
was
your
about
breath, you're
3
leaving. Do you
televisions.
understand? Unless I ask you a question.
I think he had about 3 televisions in there, but he did sell them in a garage sale.
I don't believe you.
Okay.
What's next?
Yes, ma'am. I had a Queen Anne Victorian couch. That's not in the picture.
Couch.
My father sold it, Your Honor. We had furniture too. He wanted to get rid of his old furniture to make room for our furniture so we'd have a place to put it.
Your Honor, may I speak?
Who are you?
This is my daughter.
Do you have any information about when these items were sold?
Yes, ma'am. And
Step up.
she also has. Okay.
Your last name?
Lamb.
Go ahead.
The Queen Anne Victorian couch would not have been sold by my stepfather for the simple fact it was an heirloom. He treasured that as much as my mother did. There are many items on this list that my father, my stepfather, who to me was my father, that were important to him. There are some things on here that he wouldn't have sold, especially.
Well, I don't know that. Is that what you want to tell me? Sit down. Sit. Okay. This is so easy. Very, very easy. She's a hustler. She had no right to do what she did with your car. The car really should have been yours. Right now, there is a third person who has a title in that car, and I'm not getting involved with it. I might have, under ordinary circumstances, gotten involved with it, but I think that you sold some property. Either sold, kept, moved into your house that belonged to your father, and that you felt as if you were perfectly entitled, since she left, to dispose of and use the property any way you deemed fit.
Your Honor,
I believe that that's what you did. You are not going to convince me that you didn't either take or sell those television sets. And I don't know whether he was attached to a couch or not. Mr. Armendariz, unfortunately, you don't get your car. And unfortunately, you have a counterclaim. And your counterclaim is for property.
Yes, ma'am.
Property that you thought was yours. I hope you got a good price for the car, because you'll have to go and replace some of the items with the money that you got from selling him the car.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It's been pretty hard.
It would have all worked out if he would just let me have what my stuff.
She left him. She didn't care about his medical problems.
I'm glad it's over with, because it's been torturing me for a long time.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Hamilton versus Mesha. Step forward, please.
24-year-old truck parts assistant Denise Hamilton is suing her ex-boyfriend, 24-year-old waste management supervisor Mark Mesha, for a series of unpaid loans.
Miss Hamilton, the defendant is your former boyfriend, and it is your claim that you made 2 loans to him. He's no longer your boyfriend. You want the money back.
Yes.
When was the first loan, and what was it for?
It was for his car insurance. He had gotten behind, and I'd recently gotten a credit card, so I told him I would loan him the money. The agreement was he was going to pay me back in full by the time the date came for the bill.
Okay, how much was that?
$471.
Okay, let's deal with one loan at a time. Did she put your insurance bill on her credit card?
Yes.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding her putting your insurance on her credit card.
Well, at first it was to pay it back, but then we purchased a car for her. And
who purchased a car for her?
Both of us. And they asked for $800 more to put down on the car, so I paid the $800 as it was due.
You mean a down payment?
Yes, she put $1,000 on it, and then they wanted $1,800, so I put the extra $800 on it.
Is that right?
That's incorrect.
Okay.
That was what was supposed to happen. They wanted $160 a week until we got through with the $800, and then the regular car payments would start. So the first week, he got paid on a Friday, came home, said, "Oh God, I don't know why I said I could do this. I don't think I have the $160. So I maxed out my other credit card. I paid $100. He gave me $60 for it.
What happened the next week?
He paid it the next week. He paid
$160 the next week?
Yes.
And what about the third week?
He paid it the third week.
Third week he paid $160. What about the fourth week?
Yes.
That means so far he paid $540 towards the car.
Yes.
Okay, now who has the car?
I have the car because I'm a co-signer.
So you have the car?
Yes.
Now, you say that this $471, the loan was sort of forgiven because you put in far more than $471 towards her car.
Correct.
Well, how do you respond to that?
We had signed the paperwork. He said, I can do this. I can put the down payment on the car. I said, fine. And I was going to tell him, you know, I understand that you're not going to have the $471 by the time the credit card is due.
Darn right. Yeah.
So I was going to say, you can just make like the minimum payment or whatever. And
I don't care what you were going to say.
Well, he told me.
What did you say?
He said, you know, now I don't have the money for this, so I can't pay it.
Fine. That's reasonable. So then you shouldn't have bought the car.
He wasn't.
Miss Hamilton, what are you complaining about? You came out ahead. So what are you complaining about?
Well,
you have a car.
Yes.
He paid a piece of that car. He has no use of that car. You loaned him because he didn't have it, $471, and he loaned you a hell of a lot more than that because you didn't have money. Come on, so far I'm unsympathetic towards your plight, Miss Hamilton. What's next that you gave him money for?
I loaned him $1,300.
For what and when?
It was in August 15th. He was supposed to go put a down payment on an apartment for me, him, and his best friend, and basically just took off with it. And I had to go looking for him, ask him what happened to the money, ask him why we didn't have an apartment.
Okay, go. $1,300.
Okay, she
Look
signed,
at me.
Sorry, she signed the check over.
What check?
It was a check for $1,300. But the agreement was, like she said, it was to make, you know, payments for the apartment. And when I got out there, we basically started going astray, and I needed a place to stay, and I just used the money to get a place to stay.
So you owe her the $1,300.
Well, I don't feel, you know, I don't feel that I should owe money for money that was supposed to be put up, and then all of a sudden we sat down and said, okay, it's not making out.
What kind of double talk is that? Okay. Sometimes you have to say, I owe her the money. I did the wrong thing.
But I have.
You took $1,300 from her in August,
Right,
and then
never
you
once
took off.
did she ever say it was a loan for one.
It was to be used for the down payment on an apartment. It may have been used as a down payment on an apartment, but only for you. And the original intent was for it to be used as a down payment on an apartment for both of you. Therefore, if you weren't using the money for a purpose for which it was given to you, you must give it back.
Right.
Do you understand?
Yes, I'd give it back.
Perfect.
I'd owe only half of it anyway.
What?
From what I understand, from what I've been told, it was part of it was a loan, and I'd only owe half of it anyway.
Now we have a different story, so explain that to me.
I'm not exactly sure on the whole detail. It was lent basically on her, and both of us owed it. As soon as she would have gotten the apartment, I would have had to pay it anyway.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,300, that's all.
This is case number 345 on the calendar in the matter of Adams versus Contreras Asensio. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats.
Miss Adams, on what date did this accident happen?
December 16th,
What time?
approximately 10:15 p.m.
What kind of a car were you driving?
A 93 Saturn.
According to your complaint, the defendant's dog ran out into the middle of the road. Your car hit the dog. A lot of damage was caused to your car you want the defendants to pay for.
Yes, ma'am.
Unfortunately, the dog was killed, not immediately after the dog was hit by your car, and they say that you were probably going too fast. They are counterclaiming for the pain and suffering that they felt when their dog died and for the value of the dog. What kind of a street is this?
It's a residential, it's a very narrow residential street.
Do you live in that neighborhood?
No.
What were you doing there?
I had taken some paperwork to my friend that lives around the corner from them.
Is there lighting in the streets?
It's not a lot of lighting, no. It's not as bright as a busy street.
Tell me what happened.
I had left my friend's house. I pulled around the corner, and it was approximately 6 houses down. This dog ran out in front of me. I don't even think I had a chance to hit my brakes when I hit it. It ran between two cars, and I was there.
Were there cars parked on the side of the street?
Oh yeah, it's a very busy street. It's a tight street.
So there were cars parked, and the dog ran out in between the cars.
Yes.
What was your dog doing out without a leash?
I wasn't there at the time, but
okay, so you don't know who was who was there?
Well, my neighbor, my guest neighbor, he
Your
was
who?
there. He saw everything what happened.
Just
that
a
night.
second.
Sorry.
Were you there?
No.
Well, who
But
was there?
My witness, him.
I was right there.
Tell me what your name is.
My name is Gerardo Cruz.
Mr. Cruz, were you taking care of the dog?
No, I had got it was in 10:15 p.m. Excuse me.
You answer my questions.
Okay.
First, put your hands down. Were you taking care of the dog?
Yes, I was.
You just told me no. Were you taking care of the dog, or were you not taking care of the dog?
Yes, I was taking care of the dog.
Okay. What was the dog doing without a leash?
Well, he followed me out to the street. It was approximately 4:50 between 4:30 and 5 o'clock when that
I don't
lady
care
ran
what
over
time
the
it was. First of all, what kind of dog is this?
It's a Rottweiler.
So it's a big dog?
Yeah.
Yes.
What was this big dog doing in your care without a leash?
Had gone out to the street.
For what?
To get a football across the street.
You went out to go get a football across the street?
Yes.
And?
And I picked it up, and the dog followed me accidentally. I guess out to the street. And I was talking to my elderly neighbor that lives right in front of my house when I saw the dog coming towards me, so I told him, go back. So he was going back. Approximately the car was coming 40 to 50 miles per hour when the impact.
Sit down. Did you leave him in charge of your house?
He's my guest house.
He lives
in my house. But I got a guest home.
He lives in the back of our house,
my house.
in our guest home.
So he was in charge of your dog?
Well, we're not there at the moment.
At the time, he was the only one that was there and seen everything with my neighbor.
Let me hear. Listen to me. When you weren't home, where did you put your dog?
On the backyard.
And his house is in the backyard?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if he goes out and the dog is not chained or anything, he's just in the backyard?
Yes.
He let the dog out?
Yeah.
He let the dog out?
Yeah.
So, what do you want from her? You got a big Rottweiler. He walks out to get a football, goes across the street, talking to somebody. He's not paying attention. He doesn't know whether he's a foot or horseback. He lets your big dog come out, and your dog gets hit by a car.
How come she drive 45 or 50 miles per hour?
You weren't, madam, let me explain something to you. You weren't there. You weren't there. It's his fault, not her fault. It's his fault. And if he made up a story that the car was speeding, that's just to make himself feel better because of his negligence, the dog got out of the backyard and the dog got hit. Dogs are stupid. They're not smart. Dog doesn't say, oh, I could get hit by a car if I ran out between these two cars. It sees somebody that they knew walking out, followed him. He doesn't turn around before he crosses the street and say, oh, I left the gate open. The dog followed me out. I better go put the dog back inside or get a leash. No, 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 no. He goes over to talk to a neighbor, right? Very smart, very intelligent. Let me see the damage to the car, please.
Here's the estimate. I already paid for that. That's been paid for the radiator.
What did you do after the dog came in contact with your car?
After I hit the dog, I got out to see if the dog was okay, and the dog got up and took off running, so I asked him to stay with the car, and I followed the dog. Well, the dog jumped into a yard, and there was a gentleman, nobody here, but there was a gentleman standing in the front yard that didn't speak Spanish, and I said, is somebody here?
Didn't speak English.
I mean, I'm sorry, I only spoke Spanish, didn't speak English. And a little girl ran in the house and asked some lady to come out who spoke English. So I said, is that your dog? And she said, yes. I said, well, I just hit it, and I said, I've got damage to my new car, and I said, I'd like to have it taken care of. At which point she said, okay. We walked over, she looked at my car, and she said, that's not my dog. That belongs to my father-in-law. I said, okay. So I said, can I have his number? They gave me a business card, and I said, okay. They said, call tomorrow. So I called the next morning. He wasn't there. So I called for several days, and finally I went over there and I spoke to this gentleman right here, and he threatened me with bodily injury.
My God.
Me and my household.
That's a lie.
That's not a lie.
Your Honor, that's a lie.
Your Honor, I had a witness. I had a witness that's in the hospital.
Listen to me. I'm going to give you a chance to respond. So I don't want you. Pay careful attention where you are. You're in a courtroom. You're not outside. She's going to testify. Then you're going to have a chance to rebut what she says. All right.
I had a witness. He's in the hospital.
I'm not interested in seeing
and then here's a letter from my mother that I was on a speakerphone.
I'm not interested in a letter from your mother.
Okay. They just threatened me over the phone too. At which point, my mom's very ill, and I can't put my mom through that, so we moved.
Damages are about $3,000 to the car. It was done?
I also missed the hospital appointment 2 days later because my car was out of commission that I was supposed to have a
Should have taken a cab. Don't be ridiculous.
It's in Hawthorne.
Don't
I'm
listen
disabled.
to me.
I have no money.
Listen to me.
Okay.
Don't pad it.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Genius over here doesn't call the vet immediately, doesn't call a hospital immediately to take the dog over. He lets the dog bleed to death for 6 hours.
And later today,
she jabs his stick into the truck a couple times. She said something about, my man stayed all night with you last night. I was like, your man ain't stayed all night with me. I have no clue what you're talking about or who the F you are.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Helen Adams says Alex Contreras and his mother Ana Maria Asensio owe for damage to her car when she ran over their dog. Alex and his mom say Helen was driving too fast.
I don't think that you were going 50 or 60 miles an hour down that street. I think that he said that just to make himself feel a little bit better because he's really responsible for the dog getting killed. Put your hand down.
I was going to say so.
I'm not interested. If I were interested, I know what it means. I didn't think you had to go to the bathroom,
he's
sir.
Lying. I was there
Listen
too.
to
I'm
me,
in the
sir.
same neighborhood.
Listen to me, sir. It's his fault that the dog got killed. He left the gate open and allowed the dog to get out. If he were careful and left his house and closed the gate, then the dog wouldn't have had an opportunity to run out between two parked cars and get killed. It's his fault.
Their dog jumps the fence.
I'm
sorry.
That's not what he said happened. Do you understand?
Yes.
I'm just curious about something. The dog got back to your house. Did you take the dog to the vet?
Yeah, it was too late. So we had called sanitation, animal control, and by the time it was, I don't know, by the time, I wasn't there, man, to tell you the truth, but no, I got there 4 or 5 days later, because she was...
Got there 4 or 5 days later?
Because she was...
Shh, quiet. When you realized the dog had been hit, did you call a vet immediately?
No.
What time did you get home?
Around 10.
Around 10 o'clock at night. Where was the dog?
He was over there bleeding.
So according to this gentleman, this happened 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The dog was still alive when you came home at 10 o'clock. That's what you said?
Bleeding.
Yeah, of course, bleeding from 4 o'clock in the afternoon, according to this genius.
To tell you the truth, I don't know if he was there now because I don't take care of the dog. Only my son, and you know them, because I don't...
Pay careful attention to me. He testified that this happened at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. He walked out of the yard, leaving the door open. The dog came out, the dog got hit. Right? The dog is bleeding. Genius over here doesn't call the vet immediately, doesn't call a hospital immediately to take the dog over. He lets the dog bleed to death for 6 hours. I mean, this is somebody...
I know, I understand.
Do you have children?
Yes, I do.
Don't let him take care of your children.
No, my children, I take care of them.
No, don't let him take care of your children. Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. That's all.
The problem was the dog was big. If I'd have been going faster, it would have busted my windshield because he came up on my hood.
She got up, oh, whose F dog is this? Who's F the F owner? Who's this? Who's that? Come on.
They said, no problem, we'll take care of it. And then they just, all of a sudden, everything changed after they saw the damage done to my car.
She knows she's lying. Obviously, she's lying.
They threatened me with bodily injury to me and my household.
She said I threatened her. That's the first lie. If anything, she threatened me.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Stewart versus Cobb. Step forward, please.
Store manager Sandra Stewart is suing dietary aide Lynn Cobb for damaging her rental truck when she beat it with a stick. Lynn says she caught Sandra with her boyfriend.
All right, Miss Stewart, one evening you were sitting in a truck that you had rented. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning?
After 3.
And you were sitting in your truck with the handsome and affable Bruce, who happened to at that time have been her boyfriend.
Correct.
You didn't know her?
No.
And according to your complaint, Miss Cobb is out looking for Bruce and finds you and Bruce sitting in your rental truck.
Correct.
And proceeds to go ballistic on your truck.
Correct.
Hitting it with a stick and causing a whole bunch of damage for which you are responsible to the rental company, and they are billing you some $624. And you want Miss Cobb to pay.
Correct.
Miss Cobb says she didn't hit your truck, she just hit you. So tell me when this was and what you were doing sitting with the handsome and affable and I see absent Bruce.
Right. That happened on August the 31st of this year at my job. I was working for the Star and Press. My position was a field rep. I come in at 1 a.m., Bruce comes in at 3 a.m.
So you're like a dispatcher of newspapers?
Correct.
Okay, so go ahead.
Bruce comes in about 3:15. 5 or 6 minutes after Bruce was in the truck with me, we hear this little noisy car. A couple seconds later, this automobile pulls up in the tunnel, because we're in the tunnel. She jumps out of the car. I don't know what she...
the defendant.
Right. She comes over to the truck and she says something to Bruce. Something about out all night long or something. I looks over at Bruce and I ask Bruce, who the F is this? Bruce, who is this? Well, she has this stick that is probably the length of this table right here. Nice size. It's like a tree branch. It once used to be a tree branch, but it's been shellacked and fixed up all kind of pretty, like a walking stick. She jabs this stick into the truck a couple times, babbling something. Don't know what she was saying.
Through the passenger door? Through the
driver's door. I'm in the driver's seat.
Oh, you're in the driver's door.
Right. Bruce gets out of the truck from the passenger side. He gets out of the truck. He walks around the front of the truck. Well, she said, "You the one that my husband spent the night with?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? What are you talking about?" I bags out of the passenger seat. out through the passenger door backwards. She says at the back of the truck, "Itch, I'm gonna do this. Itch, I'm gonna do this." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She says something about, "My man stayed all night with you last night." And I was like, "Your man ain't stayed all night with me. I have no clue what you're talking about or who the F you are." Go ahead. Bruce goes toward her. She swings this stick, and it hits the back of the truck, the top part of the truck. It hits the back of the truck.
Did she ever hit you?
No.
Never hit you. Did she
No.
ever hit Bruce?
No, she swung at him the first time with the stick, and that's where she hit the truck. She didn't hit him.
Did she eventually get back in her car?
Bruce tackled her some kind of way and kind of threw her in the car to where she was on her backside. Bruce was on top of her. She puts the car in drive that she's driving. She runs over Bruce's foot. She puts it back in reverse. She hits him, knocks him down, comes back forward where he has sit down flat, runs over his leg, tries to get out of the tunnel, couldn't get out, hung a U-turn and come back the other way to get out.
Was an ambulance called?
Yes, for Bruce.
Was he taken to the hospital?
No, he wouldn't go.
He's been run over 3 times, according to your story.
She ran over his foot, she hit him, knocked him down, came back forward across him.
Okay, let's go.
I did not hit her truck. We was running around the truck.
What were you doing there?
I came to see who he was with.
Why?
Because I wanted to know.
You married to him?
No. But we've been together 11 years. I wanted to know.
Why were you angry with her?
What she's not telling is that I had called him on his cell phone and we had our talk or whatever. He didn't turn his cell phone off. So I heard the whole conversation of what was going on, blase school, blase school. Okay.
So, what are you mad at her for?
I was mad at both of them.
What are you mad at her for?
Because she was with my husband.
Just a second. A, you don't have a husband.
Well, she was with my boyfriend.
Well, so you're mad? Be mad at him? How do you know
I'm
what he
mad
told
at
her?
him too.
How do you know what he told her?
Okay.
How do you know what he told her?
I don't know what he told her then.
Right. So what are you mad at her for?
Okay. I'm not mad at her then.
And where did Bruce go on the 31st of August?
He went to work, I guess.
And did he come home?
Yeah, eventually.
So the two of you made up?
We made up eventually, but you know.
He came home?
Yeah, he came home.
Can I see the damage to the truck, please?
And Judge Judy, there's another automobile, my truck, she damaged Monday night, this Monday night.
Just for my information, where was your car or truck that you damaged this past Monday night?
I stopped at my sister's before going home to get things together. It's like 8:45 p.m. Went into my sister's house, came back out about 5 minutes till 9. She approached me from behind this building. I had my 2-year-old by the hand. She walked in front of me. She says, "Now what? Now what? What about tomorrow?" I called my sister's name because she always watches go to the automobile. I said, "Lauren, come get my baby." She stepped right out of the door, grabbed my baby. "Sandra, what's wrong?" I said, "Just get my baby." Then she sees Lynn. She says, "No, you got somewhere to go. You got a plane to catch. Come on in the house. We're going to call the police." When I come back out with the baby, after I gave the report with the police, come back out to get the baby, the police is in the parking lot next to my Ford Explorer. Says, "Sandra, look, my tires are cut and my truck is keyed."
I'm not going to ask her to respond to that because this is a complaint that's still open. But I certainly think that if it's true, Ms. Cobb, if any part of it is true, that if you even saw her on Monday night, you're making a big mistake. Because you want to know something? Old Bruce isn't worth it.
Sure ain't.
I just want you to think you have children.
Yeah.
How old are your children?
My children are grown.
Well, your grown children don't want to have to come and visit you in a lockup.
Right.
Ms. Cobb, I have to make a judgment, and I have to make a judgment that if someone is angry enough to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, go out in their car and search for their boyfriend, who they believe has been fooling around with somebody else, and they find them in a truck, that if I am to believe you, did absolutely nothing as a result of that. Now, Miss Stewart would seem to me is a relatively normal person. If you had hit her with this stick, as you suggest, rather than hitting your truck, there is no way that the police would have let you go. So I have to make a judgment whether I believe that you did nothing. And I don't believe that you did nothing. I believe that you did something. And I believe that you damaged the truck that she was driving in. Now, the rental car company is charging her for these marks that were made on the truck, $624.65, and I believe that you are responsible for that. And I'm going to reiterate, Ms. Cobb, You don't seem like a bad person.
I'm not.
I don't know whether Bruce is a bad person, but all I can tell you this, Bruce isn't going to be standing before a judge. You are.
Right.
Is he worth it?
No.
Good. Goodbye.
Yeah, this is case number 438 on the calendar in the matter of Clemens versus Powell.
Thanks, Bert.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Ms. Clemens, according to your complaint, you and the defendant lived together. You claimed that in September of last year, he assaulted you.
Yes.
Then again, there was some sort of an altercation in October of last year, and you were arrested. And it is your claim that after that, you were barred from going to the house, and Mr. Powell got rid of all of your property.
No, he has all my property.
You want it back, or you want what he got rid of? You want the value of it? Mr. Powell says that there was never an assault in September, at least not one perpetrated by him.
Correct.
And that the property that you're speaking of was property that you were supposed to retrieve with the assistance of a third party pursuant to a court order. You never got a third party to come and get your property, and he got rid of it.
Correct.
Okay. How long did you live together, Miss Clemens?
2 years, a little over 2 years.
From when to when?
From November of 2000 until October of 2001.
2002. Were you living in his apartment, your apartment, or is it an apartment that you moved into together?
He moved into my apartment, and after that, we moved into a house.
So you were living in 2002 in a leased house?
Yes.
And in whose name was the lease?
Both of ours.
Is that right?
This is correct.
And when did the lease expire?
February 1st of 2003.
So at the time that you left the house in October of 2002, there was still a few months to go on the lease. Is that right? All right. Now, I want you to tell me first, since you're suing for this assault that allegedly happened in September of 2002, I want you to tell me the circumstances surrounding that assault.
Me and Mr. Powell got into an argument, and basically it was the same thing, arguing about who did what, and basically we weren't getting along. We weren't getting along at all. And he hit me.
What time of the day? Where were you?
It was nighttime, and I was in my room.
And he just hit you? Did he hit you with a fist? Did he hit you with an object? Did he hit you with a hand?
His open hand.
And what happened after he hit you?
I cried for a while. We argued some more, and he left out the room.
And then what happened?
The next day I woke up feeling sore all over, so I went to the hospital.
You have a hospital report?
Yes, I do.
Let me see it. Where were you hit?
Here, there, and on my other arm.
You said he slapped you with an open fist.
He slapped me and he hit me a couple times.
Well, you didn't tell me that.
I'm sorry, I wasn't clear, but he slapped me and hit me a couple times.
Did you go to the police?
No, I did not. I refused.
After you went to the hospital, where did you go?
I went back home.
Did you tell them at the hospital that you have a safe place to go?
Not exactly, no, because...
Well, that's what they say that you told them.
Yes,
that you had a safe place to go, and the safe place to go is you went home.
Yes, because he was at work. It was safe at home. He was gone.
Well, did you pack up your things and leave?
No, I did not.
Why not?
Because I was in love with Mr. Powell. We had had arguments before.
So then if you were in love with Mr. Powell and you decided to stay, and I'm not interested in your suing him now because he slapped you in September when you went home and you decided to stay. Do you have children together?
No, we do not.
So the only thing that you have together is a lease?
Yes.
Do you work?
Yes.
Were you working at the time?
Yes.
So then you're not financially dependent upon him for any reason?
Oh, no, he was financially dependent on me.
So that there was no reason why you couldn't just pick up and leave?
I understand that, ma'am.
Who are these people here with you today?
My best friend, MJ Andrews, and my ex-husband who took me to the hospital, and they're here with me to support me.
So you could have gone to either one of their houses, is that right, if you felt that you were in danger?
I don't feel like I was in that much danger because...
So then why are you suing him now?
I don't... The suing him for the violence is not important. What's important today is my things that were left in the house, and I did try to obtain...
Just 1 second. I'm not there yet. So what you're telling me is you just threw in this September incident for good measure.
They asked me what happened, and I told them.
Well, you could tell them, but you had no inkling to sue him for this. Fine. That's good, because for me, you wouldn't get anything. I'm not even sure that it happened. Now I'd like you to tell me what happened in October. I'm going to you because according to you, there was an assault in October.
Correct.
And she was arrested.
Correct.
Let me hear what happened.
Okay, basically what happened was, as she may have mentioned, that we were not getting along at this point in our relationship because of the different mood swings that she would have, as well as the what I would characterize as obsessive, possessive type of behavior towards me in our
Powell,
relationship. Yes.
How long did you know Miss Clemens?
I knew her for 2 years.
When you knew her, was she taking medication?
I wasn't aware of her taking medication until maybe 6 months in our relationship.
Either an antidepressant, is that what you take, antidepressants?
Yes. I'm no longer on them. I no longer take them.
But you were taking them for quite a while.
Yes, and Mr. Powell knew because
that's all. You were taking them for quite a while.
But Mr. Powell was aware of the time that I got the prescription, and he knew how long I was taking them and why.
Between 1995 and 2000, had you been taking antidepressants or any other psychiatric medication?
I only started taking Zoloft, which is an antidepressant, in 2001.
Okay.
Prior to that, no, nothing.
In October, sir,
yes.
You want to tell me what happened?
As she said, she was prescribed, I said she was prescribed medication, but she wasn't taking it, or if she was taking this medication, she was taking it with the addition of alcohol at the same time, which basically caused the violent mood swings. There was a lot of violence anyway. October 3rd, it escalated to the point where she pushed me through a glass door. The glass was already broken from an incident that she had broken this glass before for being upset with me, and that was basically how she showed her anger, was to break things and throw things. Anyway, the police were called in. She was arrested at that point.
On the 3rd of October?
Correct. There's a temporary protection order that's given with any domestic violence case. She violated that temporary protection order by constantly harassing and stalking me, as well as coming by the house, as well as the number of phone calls that she will call. Like I said, I have an answer machine that takes 50 messages. She would fill those up totally. I presented this to the police department, and they rearrested her for violation of the
When did they rearrest her?
November the 4th, I want to say, Your Honor. I'm not sure exactly when, but at that court date, she was dealing with some bad check things, as well as a preliminary trial on this domestic violence. They rearrested her that day because they had an arrest warrant out for her, but they couldn't find her. They got her when we went to court that day, so she was rearrested at that time. So I made sure that the judge understood that my problem is only this. I want this woman to deal with the medication and help herself. I even told her I don't even want her to have jail time, as opposed to, could you just make sure that there's something in place that she gets treatment for her symptoms. And basically what she was doing was she was causing me and my son, she was jeopardizing me and my son's life through all these different things.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
After she basically kept violating judge's orders and putting me and my son's life in jeopardy, I felt that there was no need for me to keep this going on. This civil case is basically the same example of her trying to keep some type of relationship going here, Your Honor.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lisa Clemens says ex-boyfriend Ricardo Powell owes for the return of property and for an assault. Ricardo says Lisa is a violent woman.
Miss Clemens, in November, did you plead guilty to any of these charges, and were you given a year's probation?
I pled guilty to the violation of the protection order, and they dismissed the domestic violence.
The underlying.
The only reason I placed those phone calls to Mr. Powell in violation of the protection order was because I no longer had any of my things. Mr. Powell denied a third party on two other occasions.
Wait just one second. I'm not there yet. I asked you if you pled guilty. The answer is yes. You had an attorney, is that right?
Yes, and I spent a night in jail.
Okay. Now, as part of the order, the judge told you that you could send a third party for your property.
Yes, but Mr. Powell...
Just a second. What was the name of the third party that you designated to get your property?
My Aunt Donna. Mr. Powell denied.
Just a second. What was wrong with these two people here to get your property?
My aunt was available with me in court, and therefore the people, when I left the courthouse that day, we designated her because the court officers were there.
Who designated her?
My lawyer and I, because she was there. She was available. She was in court.
Was that part of the order?
No, it's not. The person is designated on the court papers. I went back to court, Your Honor.
I'm not there yet, Ms. Clement. I'm trying to go in order. When, for the first time, were you contacted by Ms. to get her property?
There was never any contact business. There was only contact by Lisa a week after the trial.
Just a second.
Yes.
A week after
the trial.
The trial.
Correct.
Did you, Ms. Clements, go to the defendant's house?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Did your aunt go to the defendant's house?
No, she did not. I have a witness here today that he claims was with me. I have not even driven down the street.
Just a second. Is there any reason why you brought these two witnesses here today instead of your aunt?
Because my aunt is working and she could not get off of work.
Don't these people work?
Yes, but...
Listen to me, Ms. Clemens. The defense that Mr. Powell has in this case is that you were instructed by the court to have a third party retrieve your property. His defense is you never had a third party contact him in order to get that property. You say that you did, and that third party was your aunt. So it would seem to me that that is a key witness. These people aren't key witnesses. This person was the person you designated. Why would you not bring a pivotal witness who you say can testify that you were trying to comply with the judge's order?
My aunt was not, to me, a pivotal key witness in this instance.
Well, to me, she is.
I understand that, Your
Okay.
Honor.
Now, I'd like to see a list of the property that you say you left behind at Mr. Powell's. Do you still have the bed with the mattress and box spring?
No.
Chest of drawers?
No.
Jewelry?
No.
What'd you do with it?
She had a couple bags of clothes, some books, and she does have one dresser. It's a desk. Right, that's it. Other than that, everything else is thrown out, which was shoes, it was toothbrushes, personal items, things of that nature. After she basically kept violating judges' orders and putting me and my son's life in jeopardy, I felt that there was no need for me to keep this going on. This civil case is basically the same example of her trying to keep some type of relationship going here, Your Honor.
Mr. Powell, I want you to tell me, sir, when she was arrested in October.
Correct.
Now, up until that time, the two of you had lived together for a couple of years. When you live together for a couple of years, you accumulate property. You have your clothes and things. Did there ever come a time when you gave certain of her property over to somebody so that she would have clothes and shoes?
As soon as she got out of jail, she was there within 2 hours with the police escort to get her things. They gave her things. They allowed her to take things out that day. So she took most of her things that first day.
Miss Clemens, on October the 4th, were you accompanied by a police officer, easy to verify, back to Mr. Powell's house to retrieve some of your property?
Yes, I was accompanied by the police officer.
And how long did you stay with the police officer, which is also easy to verify, in Mr. Powell's house?
Mr. Powell rushed us out after about 20 minutes. He told me to get what I could get and get out.
No, there was a police officer with you.
Yes, and
there was a police officer with you. I assume that if you were there with an officer, you wanted to get things that were most valuable to you. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Why didn't you take your jewelry?
Because the jewelry was what I consumed. What jewelry I had on was most important to me. The jewelry that was left in the house were things I did not wear every day. The clothing I obtained was stuff that I needed to get through the week. Mr. Powell stopped me from getting everything. I wish I could.
I'm not talking about everything. I'm asking you about a specific thing. I'm asking you about jewelry. To me, woman goes into a house, she grabs cash and jewelry first, and then you go to your pocketbook.
Your Honor,
what? Go ahead.
I have this whole situation with Lisa has been such a terrifying thing. As I said, I've even neglected to countersue her for the amount of rent left on our lease, as well as the damages to the house, which I have pictures of right here. Those damages would be in a total of somewhere between $800 and $900. The rent would be the total of like $1,400. I don't want nothing else to do with this whole situation whatsoever, so I've neglected to countersue.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
When did you go to get her things?
No, I never got a chance to because the officer called me back and said he changed his mind.
No, I don't believe. Let's not get involved with things that you really don't know anything about.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lisa Clemens says ex-boyfriend Ricardo Powell won't return her property. She also claims Ricardo assaulted her.
I would like to know, Mr. Powell, on what date you disposed of, according to you, these couple of bags of clothing and shoes.
November the 19th, the day that she came over a week after the trial in violation of the judge's order. There was no more purpose at that point. She was going to keep violating the protection order. She was going to keep violating the judge's order.
Now, she was found guilty on the violation.
She was found guilty on the domestic violence. I She had it mixed up, Your Honor. That's the only thing I'm clarifying. She was found guilty of the domestic violence. I plea bargained her to dismiss the violation of the temporary protection order.
So she wouldn't go to jail?
Correct. That she would get this counseling.
Right. So she wouldn't go to jail because if you're found guilty on the violation, what?
Correct. Yes, sir.
You want to say something?
Yes.
Well, step up for a second. Tell me what you want to say. Your last name is?
My last name is Twyman.
Go ahead.
I went with the police to their house to get her clothes and things.
Is that the day she was released?
This was the second time, I believe. And he would not let her get anything. And the police called both their lawyers. And I believe both lawyers agreed that she could get these things. And he told them at first she could come and get them. And then the police called me back.
Just a second. Who did he tell she could come and get?
He told the police.
How do you know that?
Because the officer called me at home, at my house, and told me that I could go and get the things without her.
You, not her.
Not her.
You.
Me. Right.
Fine. When did you go to get her things?
Now,
listen to me carefully. When did you go to get her things?
I never got a chance to because the officer called me back and said he changed his mind.
No. I don't believe.
Oh, well.
No, that I don't believe. Yeah. He said you could go.
Exactly.
Was she going with you?
No, she was not allowed to go.
Good.
She was there to...
Now let me hear your version of these events.
Okay, Your Honor. After the police, they said she has a reasonable expectation to come after the domestic violence case to come back and get some things out of her house. I gave them the run of the house to get what they have to do because I understood the police officers. After that, I was advised by the police officers as well as the prosecutor's office that anything else after this would have to be dealt with in court. They came over 3 extra more times after that in violation of what everybody is stating.
Who's they?
She came over more than once. He came over the second time after the police with her too. She was there with him the second time. Where was she? They were in the truck in front of the house.
Did you ever go over to the house in the truck with her? Shh. The answer is either yes or no.
Yes.
Well, you can't do that, sir.
Okay, well, we met the police there at the house. And we were not in front of your house. We were 2 doors down, actually. We called the police before going to his house.
She can't go there, sir. Don't you understand that?
Exactly. I understand that. Okay, Jan, if you may, if she can't go there, why would he have her come there and pay the rent and then put her out?
Again,
after the whole situation.
Let's not get involved with things that you really don't know anything about.
All right. I know about it.
Okay? Sit down.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
You have to put a period. You have to say this did not work out. The relationship is over. I'm not going to have anything to do with him. I lost some. He may have lost some. I lost more. That's the way it usually goes. It's over. Forget it. Go buy a new TV and a new hamper. Do you understand?
Yes,
it's finished. It's over.
Yes,
if you stop taking your medication because you don't feel as if you need it anymore,
I'm not with him anymore.
if you don't feel as if you need it anymore, that's a judgment that you're going to have to make. I'm not so sure, Ms. Clements, that that's the best idea. However, if you think that that's a good idea, fine. Cross him off and say it's over and let it go. That's all.
Christine Lawson is suing her ex-boyfriend, Joseph Lemos, for the cost of a big screen TV they purchased as a couple. Joseph says when they broke up, Christine kept the TV.
Miss Lawson, this gentleman used to be your boyfriend. You lived together for a period of time. Something happened while you were living together with your TV. You claimed that he wanted to buy a big screen TV. You put it on a credit card. You allowed him to use the credit card. He used it not only for the TV, but for some other things. He paid for the other things that he used. Ultimately, he paid off the credit card up to the amount of the TV after you broke up, and then he stopped paying for the TV. You want him to pay for the television. Sounds very reasonable, right?
Yes.
Except that you have the TV.
Correct.
So, I'm confused. Mr. Lema says that he did in fact use the credit card to purchase some other things. Even after you broke up, he continued to make payments on the credit card until he had paid off all of the items he had purchased, but for the television.
Correct.
And the reason he didn't pay for the television is because you have the television. When did you break up?
It's about April or May of 2006.
And when was the television purchased?
August of 2004.
So you've been watching the television?
Correct.
In your house?
Yes.
Why don't you pay for it?
I never wanted it. I don't like it. I would love to give it back to him, but I don't have, I'm using it as collateral, I guess, to get the rest of the money that he owes me.
The only money that's owed is owed for the television.
Not entirely.
Most of it is for the television.
I guess you could say that.
So what you want me to believe, Miss Lawson, is that he said to you, you can keep this $3,000 television and watch it, and I'm going to make the payments on it.
No, that's not how the conversation actually
Well, tell me how conversation actually went.
Okay. When we broke up, there was still about $4,000 on the credit card, which, as you said, there was multiple things on there. He was paying me up until September of 2006.
Correct,
He was
and then he
making payments.
stopped. Right.
And he wanted to take his TV, which would have been fine to me. However, I couldn't guarantee that I would get the rest of the money that he owed me if I handed over the TV. I had no way of contacting him. I had no cell phone number. The only way I had was email. Most of the emails that I had sent him were ignored.
He paid you for the 6 months.
Well, he was paying on multiple things. That wasn't the only thing on there.
He paid the credit card honorably.
Correct.
Until the only thing left was a television that you were watching.
Well, the television was...
And he wanted it back when you broke up.
Correct.
Well, then you're watching it. You pay for it. I mean, it's not rocket science.
Well, the amount owed on the credit card exceeded what the amount of the television was.
When?
When we broke up, when he stopped paying.
Come on, Miss Lawson. I just made it perfectly clear to you that there's an agreed set of facts, and the agreed set of facts are he paid until September when the only thing that remained on the credit card was the television set, which he had initially asked for when you broke up, which you declined to give him, which you've been watching and you've been using. You pay for it. That's all. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Juliet Basasio is suing her ex-boyfriend, Omar Pierce, for unpaid rent and a security deposit. Omar says Juliet is angry that he went back to his wife.
Miss Basasio, this very unhappy gentleman who's standing next to you, Mr. Pierce, used to be your boyfriend.
Yes.
Even though he was married. And you have a child together.
Yes.
Mistake number 2. And it is your claim that the two of you leased an apartment for 6 months because you claim Mr. Pierce wanted to move out of your parents' home where the two of you were living with your baby and have a place of your own. You signed the 6 months lease. He didn't really hold up his end of the rent, which you had agreed to, and then he moved out, leaving you stuck with the lease. Mr. Pierce says that you couldn't rip him from the heart of his wife and 2 sons. And that he decided to go home, and that he paid rent while he lived there, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Did I explain your position, sir?
No, I don't owe any of the money.
What?
I don't owe any money.
Oh, this is going to be harder than I thought. When did he live in your parents' house?
The first time he moved in was in May.
Of 2006?
Yes.
How old is your baby?
He's 2.5. He'll be 3 in October.
Is that your only child?
Yes.
Why would you have a baby with somebody who's married?
Because he lied and told me he wasn't married. He told me he had just separated and he was divorced from his wife 6 months prior to when I met him.
He said he was separated or divorced?
The same difference. He said...
No, it's not the same difference. Separated is not divorced.
At first, he didn't have a wife. I would have never went with him if he told me that he was married.
And when did he finally tell you he was married?
He never did. He never told me that he was married. I had to find out from his wife that he was married. And it was after I had my son.
Was he living with you?
No, he wasn't.
Why wasn't he living with you?
I don't know.
Did you ask him why we're not living together?
No.
Did you ask him why we're not married?
No, he knows that I wouldn't want to marry him. I told him, I don't want to get married. Why do I need to get married? If I live with somebody, why would I need to get married?
Well, why if you're fighting with somebody? You're right, you shouldn't marry somebody you're fighting with, right? You also shouldn't make a baby with them.
That was before I found out that he was married.
What difference does it make if he's married or not? If you don't want to get married and you're not getting along with him.
We were not fighting before that. Everything was fine before that. There was no fighting or nothing.
You mean everything was fine until you got pregnant?
Yes. Well, he was okay up until the month I had my baby.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a receiving clerk.
Where?
I don't want to say.
In what city?
In San Marcos.
How long have you been a shipping clerk for the company that you work for now?
Close to a year.
And before that, where did you work?
Oh, I didn't work.
Huh?
I didn't work. Oh, I did work, but in numerous places.
What kind of work does the plaintiff do?
I work in the emergency room.
What kind of work does the plaintiff do?
She works in a hospital, I guess.
What do you mean you guess?
Why I see her go there. I mean, yeah, she works in a hospital. Excuse me, I don't want to be...
Yeah, don't be a smart aleck, sir. You know, you're having trouble just keeping your head above water here. And what prompted you to decide to get an apartment with him? Because now you're living with your parents and your son, right? Everything is nice. The baby has some stability, live at home, so he's got grandparents, nice. Now you know he's married. And he says, let's get an apartment together.
He's the father of my child. I'm going to give him a chance. If I'm going to want him in my son's life, I'm going to give him that chance. He told me that he was in the process already of divorcing his wife. 2 weeks before we signed our lease, before we were going to move in together, he told me that his divorce was going to be final. That obviously
So you
was
signed the
not true.
lease. Can I see the lease, please?
Yes, you may.
November of 2006 is when you started. When did he move out?
In January of 2007.
So he lived there with you for 2 months, right?
Yes.
Excuse.
What?
We moved in October, and I gave her rent for October.
It says that the rent is due the first date of each month beginning November 2nd.
Thank you. It's November.
Your lease started November 2nd,
Yes.
2006. Why did you move out?
I went back with my wife and kids. Went home.
You went back with your wife and kids. Well, what'd you expect her to do with this apartment?
Well, she told me before we moved into the place that I can go back to my family, go back to break the lease and go back to my family.
Just a second. She what? Say it again to me,
She told
so
me-
I believe it.
She told me that if it didn't work, I could break the lease.
And go back to your wife.
Yes.
Those words never came out of a woman's mouth.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Not her mouth.
Thank you. Especially
Not
with
just
somebody with a kid.
Just a second. Don't it? Look at me. Those words not only didn't come out of her mouth, they didn't come out of any woman's mouth in history. If it doesn't work out between us, you can break the lease and go back to your wife.
Yeah, because she knew how I felt about my wife and her.
What, are you crazy? Why did you sign this lease, Mr. Pierce?
Because I wanted it to be free. I thought it was going to work out between me and her.
Because what?
I wanted it to be free. I wanted, because we would have fun. I thought it would be, work out between me and Juliet.
So you wanted to have fun. You couldn't have fun in her parents' house.
We agreed to move out so we could be together.
You wanted to be free.
Yeah, well,
You wanted to be able to drink and smoke and do what you wanted to do and have a good time. You couldn't do that at her parents' house. And her parents probably looked at you like I'm looking at you and saying, why? I raised this nice girl and she brings me home a bum. Why? What happened? Mr. Pierce, you have a responsibility to pay her for the remainder of the lease, your half. Do you want me to explain why to you, sir?
No.
No?
Well, because I don't owe her any money. When I stayed there, she said that it was okay, because she knew I had to support my other kids.
You know, when I was a kid, my grandmother used to tell me that, God one day God gave you a heart, one day a soul, one day you got a brain, one day you got... It was absent. It was absent. You picked the wrong day to be absent, Mr. Pierce. Listen to what I'm saying to you, sir. You have 3 children. You made 3 children. You can't afford to have 3 children. You probably can't even afford to take care of yourself. So you have to find some other hobby other than having children. That's number 1. Number 2, sir, look over here. You signed a lease. That has meaning. Whether you pay taxes or not is not my issue. Signing this contract is my issue. Do you understand, sir?
Yes.
Signing this contract obligated her to pay this rent. Now, if they can't come after you because they can't find you, that is a problem. Do we understand each other, Mr. Pierce?
Yes, ma'am.
You understand me loud and clear now, Mr. Pierce?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. I'm glad now we understand each other, sir. So when you sign a lease for 6 months with the mother of your child and take her out of a home where she's living relatively comfortably, rent-free, and then you get an epiphany and want to be near your other baby's mother, that doesn't mean you are absolved from paying her for the rent. Do you understand, sir? If Uncle Sam can't find you, I can. Do we understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. The rent is $825. According to your complaint, he was supposed to pay $400. $400 times 4 equals $1,600. That's for the 4 months remaining on the lease after you moved out, sir. Do you understand?
Yes.
Goodbye. Judgment for the plaintiff, that's all.
Samantha Cameron is suing ex-boyfriend Christopher Potts for the return of furniture and appliances, as well as rent money and a security deposit. Christopher claims he owes her nothing.
Ms. Cameron, you and Mr. Potts were in a relationship. According to your complaint, you decided to relocate with him. You got a job opportunity in Florida. You went down to Florida, two of you found an apartment, you put down a deposit, first month's rent, and Mr. Potts went down to Florida before you did.
Correct.
When he got there, he had a change of heart. Is that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you have a change of heart, sir?
Well, because at the time she wasn't actively looking for a job in Florida, and I didn't feel like she would be a real reliable person to share all the bills with.
So you were sort of looking for a solid business partner.
Well, I didn't want to put myself in a hole. It would have been easier for me to take care of myself versus me taking care of myself, another person, a small child.
Because you have a daughter who was relocating with you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, Mr. Potts, how much money did she put down on the apartment?
I'm not sure exact dollar figure.
You know the exact dollar figure.
Yes, ma'am. It was $877.50.
So my question to you, Mr. Potts, is what arrangements did you make to get her back her $877?
Well, there really wasn't at first any arrangement because the money that she put down towards the apartment is basically money that I put towards the cost of the moving.
Well, because you were supposed to move.
Well, I was moving.
You both were moving.
Right. If we're both moving, then we both should be coming out of pocket for money.
Well, how much did you pay for all the moving of her stuff, sir?
All right, I had purchased their shipping containers where you load them up yourself. Well, originally I only needed one. The pods were originally $850 a piece. I had paid the $850, and to get an additional pod was $850, so $1,700.
Show me that you paid for $1,700, sir. Show me.
I can't.
Why not?
Because I don't have receipts for that.
Well, where'd you think you were coming to today? To the beach?
Well, that was 7 months ago, so.
7 months ago is a minute, sir. So, I'm going to ask you again, what arrangements did you make to get her back her money, $877?
Well, I paid over $900 to ship her stuff back, which...
As well you should.
I don't agree.
Well, I don't give a rat's behind whether you agree or not. Whether you agree with me, Mr. Potts, is not particularly relevant in my life. That's why you come to court. I don't believe you, sir, that you paid $1,700 for a pod for you and for her.
For two of them. They're $850 a piece.
What I'm telling you, sir, is show me. Other than your great looks, Mr. Potts, what you have to do is have proof. Proof is a receipt, a paid bill for exactly what it was, and you don't have it.
No, I don't.
Right. You chose to breach the agreement that you had by telling her once she had sent down her stuff that you didn't want her to move there for your own reasons.
No, for the reasons that it was better for everybody.
Fine. Listen to me. That's a judgment that you made. Fine. But then, once you have made that judgment, what you have to do is make Miss Cameron whole. Whole.
Which I did by sending her belongings.
I'm speaking when my mouth moves, yours doesn't. By making Miss Cameron whole, you have to return her property to her at your expense. It would be untoward of you to think that you changed your mind and now you say you want your stuff back. You have to pay for the shipping of it back to New Jersey. That's ridiculous, Mr. Potts. Now, I believe him that he packed up your boxes and sent them back, that he spent money, as well he should, because it was his option to change his mind, thereby voiding the agreement that you had to move in together. Now, if you want these other items, washer, dryer, table, and chairs, you can make arrangements to get them at your expense. Do you understand? Because I don't think you really want.
That was part of our agreement.
Well, it's unfortunate. I don't know if I believe you. In any event, he owes you $877, which was your down payment. Have you sent it?
No, ma'am, I have not.
Send it. Judgment for the plaintiff, $877. Thank you. That's all.
Ann Gribben claims professional singer Porter Singletary stopped performing halfway through her son's birthday party. Porter claims he was rattled by one of the guests.
Miss Gribben, you hired the defendant, who is a singer,
yes,
to sing at your son's birthday party.
Yes.
You gave him a deposit of $250. You want that deposit back because you claim that he came to the party and left after performing 3 songs.
Correct.
Mr. Singletary says that he came to the party, he was ready to continue with his part of the contract, but you had at least one unruly guest who wouldn't stop heckling him, and you did not take care of your guest. So that's his defense.
Yes.
How much were you supposed to pay him for the evening?
$450 for 4 hours.
And when did you hire him?
I'm not exactly sure of the date. I do have a letter that I did write him enclosed with my check.
Okay. What date is on the letter?
July 17th.
And when was the party?
18th of August.
How far do you live from the Gribben home, sir?
Oh, 15 minutes.
And tell me what happened when you got there.
I brought my equipment in.
What equipment did you bring?
Sound equipment, PA equipment.
And you set up?
And I set up.
What time did you arrive, sir?
I got there at about 10 minutes to 7.
You would do there at 7?
I was supposed to start at 7:30.
Okay, great.
And I actually started at 7:20 because there were guests there.
Okay, keep going.
So I started singing at about 7:20, doing everything basically that they've always heard me sing in the past at other events. It was about 8:10, still singing. They informed me that the son was going to arrive. When the son was to arrive, I was to stop the music and we're going to sing Happy Birthday to him. So we went ahead and we stopped the music. He came in at about 8:20. I've already sang an hour. And then the son comes in and we all sing Happy Birthday. And he comes in, he walks through. I continue to sing. A lady came up to me and she said to me, "Can you pick the pace up a little bit? Can you sing something a little bit more up?" I said, "Sure, fine."
Not Miss Gribben.
Yeah, I don't know who this person is.
You mean the person who came up to you?
The person that came up to me. So out of respect to the household and the people that were there, I said, "Okay, fine." So I sang something a little up. I sang 2 more songs. Then the lady, she comes back again and she says, "Could you sing something, you know, a little bit more up?" And I go, "I am singing up. What do you want me to sing?" She said, "Oh, I don't know, just anything, but sing it up." I said, "But if you tell me what kind of music you want, I can sing it." So then she says, "Oh, just go ahead." So I sang a couple of more songs. She comes right back again after 2 songs. And I said, you know, "What's going on?" And she said, "Well, could you sing something a little more up?" I says, "Look, this is your 3rd time to come to me. You need to tell me what it is that you want." So then she says, "Well, just anything." So I said, "Okay, fine." I turned the music off, and that's when I went in to look for the plaintiff. The lady that had been coming to me to ask me these questions, they were in the room together. And when I came to the door, they were talking about me, and they both turned red in the face because they were saying something. And then I just said, "You know, I don't know who this lady is." I said, "You know what I do? She wants me to do something that I don't know what she wants me to do, and it's total throwing off everything that I do as an entertainer." Within about 2 minutes, all of a sudden some music comes on, blasting. Some kind of rock punk music. And I go, "What are you guys doing?" And then so she says, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I can't believe that this is happening." And
Who said that?
The plaintiff. And then so
well, who
I
changed the music? Who changed the music, Miss Gribben?
The bartender.
The bartender. Go ahead.
So then she said, "You know, oh, Porter, you know, I can't believe this." And I just said, "Well, you know what? I'm an entertainer and I'm singing, and I sing with a feel. And when you change the mood of the show, it throws everything completely off. And this music, and the kids are just bouncing their head around, and you know, they're into this music."
So they're into music.
Up to this music.
Okay. You left because of this disagreement that you had with her son's fiancé.
Well, whomever this lady was.
That was the son's fiancé.
Yes. It was the son's fiancé, the girlfriend, yes.
Girlfriend. Girlfriend, fiancé. Now I'll hear you.
Okay, I remember it a little differently. First of all, Porter's a fabulous singer. I don't question that one bit. We've seen him at several venues, different places.
And nobody's ever had a problem with him?
Nobody that I know has ever had a problem with him.
Right, that's why you hired him, because you liked the way he sang, and nobody ever had a problem with him.
Super
So now I'm hearing you.
But it's a little different. The times are a little different. He wasn't there that long. I remember it that he sang 3 songs.
Well, he sang more than 3 songs.
Oh,
okay. 3 songs last half of the amount of time we've just spent together.
Okay. Okay.
So I know you said 3 songs. That wasn't true. Keep going.
Well, what happened was my son's girlfriend did interrupt him. I don't know how many times it was. Porter came to me, what he's saying is true, and he was telling me what happened, and he was upset about it. And when he told me, I was upset about it. I had no idea. But I want to just tell you one thing that was a little different. Porter was going to come that day with a DJ, and what happened was 2 things. He was going to come at 1 o'clock that day, and we were going to go over the song list. But it was his birthday that day, and he called me and said his family was taking him out to lunch. Would it be all right if he didn't come? I said, yes, it's fine. We'll see you tonight. Okay. And then when he got there, I said, where's the DJ?
You mean you thought you were going to get a singer and a DJ for $450?
Right, well,
what planet do you live on?
I'm sorry, not a DJ. I'm sorry, DJ equipment. I'm sorry, okay. not a DJ. I'm sorry.
So you had entertainment for the entire day. He was going to sing and DJ equipment when he wasn't singing.
Correct.
For $450. $250. Keep going.
Okay, but he got his DJ equipment stolen, and I said, the reason I'm bringing that up is, I said that was no big deal. I mean, he sings beautifully.
Let's go.
But what happened was when he came to me and told me that my son's girlfriend was had interrupted him, you know, I told him that I would immediately speak with her, and he's telling the truth. When he stopped playing, the bartender turned the music on. So I told Porter, I said, I'll turn it off. I mean, I begged him to stay. I mean, I told him I'd do whatever I could to,
What did you say to your son's fiancée?
I asked her, I confronted her immediately because she walked in right kind of behind Porter, and I said, what's going on?
And what did she say?
She says, well, I just wanted him to play something a little different or something a little upbeat.
Well, it's not up to her.
Oh, absolutely. I said, let me handle this.
And what did she say?
Oh, okay, you know, but I mean, I agree that she was rude. But what I told Porter that night, I said, Porter, I mean, you're terrific, and everybody here thinks you are. We want you to stay. I mean, I'll muzzle her. I'll do whatever you want. I mean, it wasn't unruly guests. I mean, it was he has to admit, it was family and friends.
Got it. He came to perform in good faith. According to you, you've seen him perform at many other venues.
Yes, I did.
He's never had a problem.
Well, no, not that I know of.
If he'd had a problem, you would have known about it if you were there.
No,
so he's never had a problem. You hired him. He wanted to do a good job. Clearly, something at your son's birthday was so distasteful that he felt as if he was prepared to risk your good offices to say, I'm leaving. I can't work in this kind of environment. You acknowledge that your guest was rude to him. He doesn't have to tolerate somebody being rude to him. You know, it would have been nice if he said, well, I'll suck it up and continue to play, but he doesn't have to tolerate that. He can leave. So the question is, was the time that he spent at your home worth $250, which was your deposit? And it was. He's an entertainer. He entertained. He came to your house. He spent an hour and a half there. He set up. He performed for $250. That's a bargain. He's entitled to $250. So, did your son have a good time at his 30th birthday?
We still had a good time, but you know, it's an embarrassing thing.
Of course you still had a good time. Well, don't you think he was embarrassed?
Yeah, I guess I've seen it a little bit differently, but I mean, I don't deny that he, you know, is not a good singer. I mean, I can't say that.
No, he was embarrassed.
It's just that we tried to do our best to make it good with him. I mean,
I believe that you did. I believe that you said, let me handle it. You
yeah,
said
I did.
To your future daughter-in-law, let me handle it. She's still the girlfriend?
Ex-girlfriend now.
Ah. See what happens? All things work out for the best. How much after the party did she become an ex?
Couple months.
Couple of months. See how things all work out for the best?
We didn't really like her.
You
probably shouldn't say that.
Well, listen, you never know what's going to happen in the future, so got to keep all your options open. But it sounds to me as if he had a good time at his party.
He did.
Good. I'm glad. He's entitled to his $250. That's all. Thank you.
John Allen claims former friend Karen Stevenson owes for a loan of $1,800.
Mr. Allen, it is your claim that the defendant borrowed some money from you. She's a former girlfriend of yours. Ms. Stevenson says that you're a con guy. She never borrowed any money from you. She doesn't know what you're talking about. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Go.
Okay. Yes, we were boyfriend and girlfriend, and we decided to part ways, and we remained friends. On about the middle of September, about a week before I actually loaned her the money, she called me in desperation, said Lisa had taken a checkbook that no longer existed, a checking account, wrote a check out for $1,800. She needed money, that the bank was pressing charges, and
she wrote out a bad check?
Yes, Lisa.
Is Lisa here?
No.
Where is she?
She lives in Florida.
Who does she live with in Florida?
Herself.
What does she do for a living?
She's a cashier.
Ever been arrested?
No.
Ever been charged with crime?
Lisa? No.
Lisa?
No.
Okay. Go ahead.
So at the time when she called me, she said, I need this money. If I don't pay this $1,800 back.
For Lisa?
For Lisa, they're going to arrest me because it was drawn on my bank account. So...
Oh, just a minute. Where do you live?
Salisbury, Maryland.
You live in Maryland, and somehow Lisa got hold of one of her old checkbooks.
Yes, ma'am.
And Lisa forged a check for $1,800.
Yes.
But there was no longer an account.
Yes, ma'am.
And Lisa cashed a check in Florida.
Somewhere, I don't know actually, you know, when she said, but it was a check written on this account, and it bounced, so the bank was going to press charges, and if she didn't pay the money back, they were going to put her in jail.
Put who in jail?
Karen. It's not true.
She didn't write a bad check.
Well, that's what she told me, ma'am.
That sounds ridiculous.
Okay.
I mean, doesn't that sound ridiculous? How old are you?
I'm 40, be 42 in March, ma'am.
42. What do you do for a living?
I have a few businesses. I'm going back to school, getting my real estate degree, and
What kind of businesses do you have?
I have a business running a company. I started in 1990.
What does it make? What does it do?
Well, I buy and resell food as like a Cisco or a U.S. food service.
You do that now?
No, right now I am in the process of going back to school. The company.
So now you don't do anything?
No, the company still exists. I'm collecting my accounts receivables and stuff like that. Yes, ma'am. I'm still in the process. I have real estate I'm selling. I do various different things.
Who do you live with?
I live with my brother right now. I'm in the process of selling my real estate, my home.
You're in the process of doing an awful lot, Mr. Allen.
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Are you in the process of going through a bankruptcy?
No, ma'am.
Did you go through a bankruptcy?
No, ma'am, I haven't.
Did you ever apply for a bankruptcy?
No,
Did you
ma'am.
ever consult with a lawyer about a bankruptcy?
Yes, I have.
When?
I consult with my lawyer in September, August, September, October, just discussing.
September of 2006?
Yes, ma'am.
About the same time that she was asking for some money?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, why would you consult with an attorney about a bankruptcy, sir?
I'd just gone through a divorce that, you know, the settlement of property had to be dispersed. I had loans with my company, just seeking my different options, you know, out there. It was discussed, but it was never gone through. I'm in a process of selling my assets to pay debts. That was my choice to do it that way. You know, I want to make sure all of my bills are paid. That's why I'm selling my home, other real estate. I have a $1.5 million piece of business real estate that I'm in the process of selling.
What's the mortgage on it?
$790,000.
When did you purchase it?
I purchased it in June of '04.
In whose name is it?
It's in my company's name.
Which is?
Paradise Produce Company Incorporated.
Who else is a partner in Paradise Produce?
Nobody.
Current on your mortgage payments?
Not at this time, no. They are in the process of being sold right now.
Is there a contract for the sale of the property?
Yes, there is a contract for the sale of the property. It's pending on other things, you know, that's going on in the community. So,
You got a lot going on in your life, Mr.
I'm a very
Allen.
active man.
You're got a lot going on.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay, so she asked you for this $1,800, and what did you do, sir? I just wanted to get a sense, because I have to figure out who's pulling my leg and who's not.
I wrote her this check out from one of my bank accounts. I have numerous bank accounts because I have personal things, business things, and all that. And I actually wrote it out to her name and put loan on the memo. I handed this check to her on September 26th, and she took it, and I said, you can go right down the road and cash this check at my bank.
Where did you give it to her?
I gave it to her in the shopping center parking lot. I met her in Del Mar, Delaware, on the Delaware side. So that night, she called me back. She says, well, I don't think I can cash this check. I've lost my license, and I don't have a current checking account. I said, well, you can go right to the bank and cash this. I said, I made it out to you, and there's money in the checking account. She said, no, I'd rather you go to the bank and cash a check. And I said, well, let me think about it. And I said, but I would need this other check back. So the next day, I went to Lori. This is my witness, Lori Collins. Can I bring her forward, Judge? Or?
Who are you?
I'm a friend of John's.
What kind of a friend?
Close family friend for over 30 years.
Okay, go ahead.
So I went by Lori's house. I discussed it with Lori. I said, Lori, I'm going to probably loan some money. I have loaned some money. She wants me to take the check back and go to the bank and cash the check and give her the $1,800. And Lori said, well, just make sure that you keep this check here, the first check, if she gives it back to you.
First check is of no value.
Right.
Unless I can test for fingerprints on it.
Right. And then the second check is, I wrote her name in the memo that I cashed this check. Here's
Yeah,
the
well,
legal.
that's what you wrote.
And I went to the bank.
You cashed the check and wrote her name in the memo.
Right. So I told Lori, I said, Lori, I have loaned this lady some money. I said, as a friend, I just wanted somebody to know that I had loaned her the money.
Was she there when you gave her the money?
No, ma'am.
Good. Sit down.
And at the time I wrote the check out, I have bank accounts with different amount of figures in it. You know, right now, $25,000 on this. If I needed it, she claims that I needed the money for myself. I don't need it.
Just show me the account where you took out the $1,800.
Yes, right there.
Okay.
Your Honor, he states that the first check that he wrote me, he had $1,800 in that account. That's the check he first gave me. I subpoenaed his bank records. $1,800 was not in there. He had
Can I see it, please?
Yes, ma'am. He had $72.79 in that account.
Can I see that check, please? Sir, You wrote her a check on 9/26 for $1,800. You didn't have $1,800 in that account.
Right.
On which you wrote this $1,800 check.
Right.
Well, why would you write her an $1,800 check and tell her to go?
Because I was going to make a deposit in the account. I moved money from different checking accounts. I have interest-bearing accounts with my business and everything like that. I move money when I need money to pay bills like in the
but you
business.
didn't move any money here, sir. You didn't move any money here. 3 days later,
She gave me the check back because she said that she couldn't cash it.
I understand that.
Because she didn't have a
Listen
license.
to me.
Yes, ma'am.
That was not the same day, sir. You already testified. It was the next day that she called you and said, I don't have a driver's license,
ma'am.
and therefore I can't cash this check.
Right.
Now, you had already told her to go and cash the check, which she could have done on 9/26.
That's right. That's right.
Okay? On 9/26, if she went to your bank,
Yes, ma'am.
and deposited that check, they would not have cashed that check because there was no balance in
They
that
could have
account.
moved the money from my business account, which is with the same bank, to cover my overdraft.
There's no overdraft privilege in here.
I'm sorry, I did lend this lady some money.
Go ahead.
He also says he gave me the $1,800. I was leaving that day to go out of town for a wedding. I was running around getting my nails done, my hair done. He didn't give me $1,800.
Okay.
Sorry.
Now, let's start out with the conversation that you had with him about Lisa.
There was no conversation about Lisa. He knows she was in town for maybe a week or two. She moved back to Florida. I don't have a checking account. I don't have any checks. I haven't had a checking account in 3 years.
So you never had a discussion with him about a loan?
No.
Never had a discussion with him about giving you any money?
No.
Why do you think he would make up this convoluted story?
Your Honor, his business account had been frozen because he owes so many people money. Okay? He couldn't even make payroll. John and I continued to talk. We were good friends. He wanted me to help him take the money out of his county bank and put in a safety deposit box, put in my name, and he wanted to put the cash in there so they couldn't touch that money. Then I told him I didn't want to be involved in that because they're going to want to know where this $21,000 is. I didn't want that in my name. I didn't want any part of that. He tried to get several people to do that, and I wouldn't do it.
So what you're saying is he tried to get several people to accept checks?
Yes.
From him?
Yes.
And squirrel away the money?
Yes.
In the event he decided to go through this with this bankruptcy?
Absolutely.
Keep going.
I mean, he says in one statement that I was supposed to pay him back in 2 weeks. John and I continue to be friends. He had a surprise birthday party for his brother. I was invited.
Don't tell me. Just tell me about the money.
There was.
When you told him that you didn't want to participate in this scheme,
yes,
what did he say to you?
That he had a couple other people that were thinking about taking the money and putting it in a safety deposit box, storing his personal property so it wouldn't be auctioned off, which it has been.
What personal property did he want to store with you?
Pool tables, big screen TV, four-wheeler, living room furniture, kitchen furniture, I mean, bedroom suits. He had a 2-story house fully furnished. All that stuff has been auctioned off.
They've been auctioned off by whom?
An auctioneer.
At whose?
I guess at his request. I really don't know. I know that his house was for sale.
Did you have an auction?
Yes, ma'am, I did. To pay my debts and everything. The pool table, big screen TV, all that stuff was auctioned off to pay debts that I incurred during the divorce. I am in process of selling 2 pieces of property, a business piece of property, all my assets to pay my debts. I am not filing for bankruptcy. I am
Well,
going to be
it's a little
paying.
more difficult now to file for bankruptcy,
Yes, ma'am.
sir, because what you're suggesting to me is if you own a piece of property that's worth $1.5 million and you have a $790,000 mortgage,
Yes, ma'am.
if you file for bankruptcy, you're not going to see any of that money.
Yes, ma'am.
So in order to see any of that money, if you pay off your creditors now, then you'll be able to maybe walk away with a couple $100,000.
No, ma'am, I'm not going to walk away with anything. My assets are about $2.2 million. I owe about 2.1. So, time I pay auctioneers, you know, realtors, all that stuff.
So it doesn't pay for you. So you have assets of $2 million and you have debts of about the same. So you can't go into bankruptcy. That
Right.
doesn't mean you're bankrupt. It just means that you have to go to work. Business people, you have mortgages, you have attorneys, you have
Right.
all kinds of other things. And you're not unfamiliar with court.
Yes, ma'am.
So here you come to a court and you say, I made a loan to this lady. Put your hand down. I made a loan to this lady. I did not memorialize that loan in any way. This check is of no value.
Right.
Because she never endorsed it. I can take out my checkbook and write out a check to Petrie Hawkins Bird in the amount of $10,000 and say, I gave him this check.
Right.
He gave it back to me, and I gave him the 10 grand in cash. And this is some evidence that I gave him that money, right?
Right.
I didn't give you any money to him. No. So this is evidence of nothing.
Right.
The only evidence that it is, sir, is that she subpoenaed this bank account, which says at the time you allegedly wrote this check out to her, you didn't have sufficient money to cover the check in the bank.
Right.
Now, you did have another bank
Yes, ma'am.
where you could have written a check that would have cleared.
Right.
As a matter of fact, according to you, you did just that 3 days later. You didn't go to this bank where you could have moved money around. You went to this bank where you took out $1,800. All of this leaves me with a very uneasy feeling, Mr. Allen.
Yes, ma'am.
And if I have a very uneasy feeling, sir, the fact that you brought a witness that says that you told her all about this loan is of no value. So, Mr. Allen, it is possible, just possible, that you loaned her $1,800.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
You understand my problem with your proof, sir?
I understand. I understand.
Are you sympathetic with me, sir?
Yes.
Good. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Thank you.
Together, parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Your last name isn't Together.
No, Marcia Engel.
Engel?
Engel.
And you have a dating service?
I work for a dating service.
You own it?
No, I don't.
Do you have the power to appear here on behalf of the owner?
Yes, I do.
You were interested in meeting some ladies.
Yes. Together contacted me by telephone and left me a message on my answer machine.
How did they contact you?
In the past, I had filled out a thing that they have if you're interested in possibly joining a dating service. It was like a few years earlier, and I never did join Together. But evidently, they recalled after a couple years looking for new clients, I suppose.
Okay.
So they called, and they left me a message wondering if I'd be interested. And like I said, left a message on my answer machine. I called back, and I says, sure. I talked to some gentleman, which I don't know what his name was, and I set up an appointment. So I went down there probably within a few days or a week's time, and I met this woman named Gail. That's who they had me. She basically told me what the structure of Together was all about, how it worked. We sat down. I probably stayed there, I would imagine, if I remember, a couple hours. They really get personal into your business. They want to know who you are, what kind of money you make, do you really work. And also they have you fill out a form asking you what particulars are you looking for in a person, whether it be age, looks, background.
Do you have a copy of that form?
Yes, I do.
Can I see it, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. That actual form, I don't. I went up to the office and I asked if I could get that particular form that I filled out, and they told me I'd have to make an appointment for during the week.
Let me see a copy of the form he filled out, please. Anyway, how much did this cost you, sir?
$795.
That's what you paid them in total?
Yes.
Okay. It says he will date, age range, well, it says 30 to 40, and that's crossed out, but in parentheses it says 35. Height range, 5'3" to 6 feet? Is that
yeah,
what you
I probably did. I don't remember that part.
Slender. You don't care whether they're single, divorced, or widowed, right?
Well, no.
Marital status. You don't care.
They can't be married.
Single, divorced, or widowed.
Yeah.
And with kids, maybe.
Right.
Prefer a non-smoker, social drinker, Caucasian, education is open, profession is open, Christian, Catholic. So far?
Right. It didn't matter really
Okay.
the religion so much as Christian.
And the rest of it, sort of the soft stuff. Honest, caring, hard worker, romantic, easygoing, down to earth, open-minded, sense of humor.
Right. They asked both of us.
I'd like all those things too.
Right. Don't we now?
What?
We do, but you know, that's just the basics of trying to match. You're not going to get all that, I realize.
Yeah,
that.
I know. Okay. And then it tells you, what's your wish list?
Well, it's something I paid for, basically.
Right. All right. Now you're suing them for even more than the $795 because you said you had to take a lot of these ladies out on dates, I assume.
No, that's not true. I'm just suing for my court costs and me taking off work to file for court costs. I'm not asking for money back. And actually, I never really took the women out. We had like meetings. What it is you...
Okay. So the contract was $795. And now I'd like you to describe for me, sir, you did go out on some dates that they arranged for
Actually, it weren't really dates or meetings.
Meetings?
Yes.
All right.
It's a difference.
Meetings.
Okay.
Because you weren't going to spend anything unless you sort of like...
Well, that's how it works for both parties.
You go someplace,
right,
you meet,
exactly.
you look, you take a look, and then you leave.
Exactly. You feel each other out to understand what you're coming from, who you like.
Okay. And where do these meetings usually take place?
The first one, the first lady that I met her up in her hometown. I think it was up around Buffalo Grove, if I remember right.
Okay, and describe this lady to me.
I don't know what you mean by describe her.
Describe her physical appearance.
Physical features. She was heavier than I wanted in a woman. And she had dark hair. And she was what I would, in my personal preference, not what I wouldn't even consider average looking. Because I asked for somebody in this, like I said, something I paid for. I asked for something, I didn't say attractive, I said better than average looking is what I stated on that thing.
Beauty is in the eyes of the beholder.
Exactly. And it's something...
How old?
I'm sorry.
How old?
How old? If I remember right, she was, I think, 38 or 39.
So that's within the age range.
It was.
Okay, and she was available. She was either single, widowed, or divorced.
She was a nice person. We sat at a bar in this German tavern, and we had drinks, and we talked for a while, and she just wasn't my type at all.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
So I assume that after that date, you called back and said she wasn't my type.
Actually, they have a form that you fill out. It's until you can get another date, you have to fill out like a fact finder form.
Okay, so then you filled out a form. Do you have a copy of that form?
Yes, I do.
Can I see it, please? This was after the first date.
Yes.
Okay. Well, this says she was friendly and down to earth. No attraction on my part. I like ladies a little slimmer. To me, she was what I consider average looking. I'm afraid to ask.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Well, here's the woman that you went out with who was 43. He told me he knew it would never work and got up and left. How embarrassing. He was the most impolite person I've ever met, and I feel very sorry for anyone who meets him.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Tom Jeanette says Marcia Engel and Together Dating Service did not fulfill his dating needs, and he wants a refund. Marcia says the contract clearly states there are no refunds.
So tell me about the second date.
Okay, the second date, they call me, and it's a woman, which I didn't want to really meet anybody in her 40s at the time. Like I said, I had a preference on there. And I don't remember the woman's name, but I told her, I says, listen, you guys are not giving me what I want. And she said, oh, no, you won't be sorry. Oh, you got to go out with her. You really like her. So I said, okay, give me her phone number.
She was in her 40s.
Yeah, I don't
How old are you?
I'm 43. I just turned 43.
How old was she?
How old was she? I don't remember. She was in maybe 43 or 44 at the time. I really don't remember. But I know she was in her 40s.
Okay, so this lady that you went out with the second time was about your age.
Okay, yes.
Right?
Right.
What was wrong with her?
What was wrong with her? She just was a total mismatch. Not at all anything that I was looking for. And I felt...
Tell me why.
Tell you why? Basically, she was, to me, very unattractive. And when I sat with her and talked with her, I didn't find we had that much in common at all.
Can I see? And you filled out a form after that?
Yes, there should have been a form.
Can I see the form? Well, this sort of says it all. Don't you have anybody in your files that takes care of their bodies by exercising? Do you exercise?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so that's your second date. And what happened the third date?
The third date, she sounded okay on the phone. I said, I'll give her a chance. They said she's really nice, you know, so. Anyway, I meet her, and we're talking, and she just wasn't my type. She's a very nice person. But what shocked me is what she told me was...
What do you mean? Say, I'll get to that in a second. You say a very nice person. How old was she?
I'm going to say 39. I'm not sure.
Okay. Nice looking?
Like you said, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and it wasn't what I was looking for. Okay.
Overweight?
Somewhat.
How much is somewhat?
I didn't gauge her. She wasn't what I was asking for. I was asking, like you read earlier, somebody slim and build, and all three women were not. You know, unfortunately, it's my preference. And
what did she do for a living?
Well, she was a cocktail waitress, I think she said, and I forgot what else she said, but that was one of her jobs.
Uh-huh. And so you were going to tell me what she said to you at this meeting.
Okay, at the meeting we were talking, basically, and she told me that she didn't even belong to Together anymore, that her membership had run out, but that Together was lacking women to supply to gentlemen within the group, so they would contact her every once in a while and send her out on a date. And she said, hey, why not? It's not costing me nothing. Now, I was kind of floored when she told me that, but she said, I didn't mind.
Right.
Yeah.
That sounds like she was honest.
Yeah.
Right? That's the first thing that you put down here. Honest. So you had 3 dates. Did you have any more dates?
No, they started calling with women in the 40 range again, and I said no. And then I just refused, and that's when we got into this matter here of filing for a small claims lawsuit.
Okay, go. I'm hearing your side.
Okay. As far as we're concerned, we have serviced him with women that were in accordance with what he was requesting, and the fact that he was not, you know, there was no chemistry between them and that he wasn't physically attracted wasn't any part of our agreement.
Mm-hmm. This last person that you arranged for a meeting with, she had, at the time, an expired contract with you?
Okay, that I'm not aware of, and I couldn't answer that. We only have active members.
Well, she said she wasn't an active member.
Okay.
She told him that. Does your organization ever contact people that aren't active members?
No, we don't. No, we don't.
So this honest lady was lying. This honest lady was lying.
I don't know what he's representing that she said.
I believe him when he said that that's what she told him. You signed a contract, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
And you seem as if you are an intelligent person.
Right.
Right? I was sort of surprised after having heard you when you said she made me feel comfortable enough to sign a contract without thoroughly looking it over.
Right. Basically,
it was all part of a con game.
Okay.
What kind of work do you do?
Okay, I'm a service advisor for an automobile dealership.
What does that mean, a service advisor?
I'm the first person you make contact with when you bring in a vehicle for repairs. I write down what your complaints are, and then I relay the information to the mechanics, and I deal with insurance companies, and I may have to call a customer back on costs.
So that you're a pretty educated person?
Right.
Well, then if you sign a contract, you're supposed to read it.
I understand that, but when I was talking with Gail, I even asked her, when we got to the final point where we're going to sign the contract, I asked her, I said, I guess I should read this? But she said, just to save time, basically what it says in here is that you're not the basic axe murderer, and that we're not liable for anything you might do, and that you're a normal person kind of thing.
Let me ask you this question.
Yes,
somebody brings their car into your dealership, they sign a piece of paper, right?
Right.
It's a long agreement that they sign. They just come in, they drop their car off on their way to work. You have the clipboard here. Listen, I've been there a lot. They have a clipboard here, and they say, you drop your car off, could you sign here, please? Right?
Yes.
They sign over there. How many people that sign over there, sir, read what they're signing?
Right.
How many?
Probably not most of them.
Right. Now, if one of those people that came into your car repair service center said, I didn't read it. You know, I was in a rush. I was going to work.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
It's not a con game, sir. It's business. You didn't get a guarantee, sir, that you were going to meet Cinderella.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Tom Jeanetts wants Marcia Engel and Together Dating Service to refund his money. He says he didn't have one satisfying date.
And what I'm saying to you, sir, is I know you were disappointed, but you signed a contract, and your contract clearly says, can't read it without my glasses, it says the client agrees that upon receipt of the client's first referral, shall not be entitled to any refund. That's what it says.
It does say that, but what was the con game all about with Gail telling me that, yes, don't worry about it, we have all kinds of nice women for you to meet and things, women that you're looking for. You know,
it's not a con game, sir, it's business. They say they have a lot of nice women. You say 2 of the 3 women that you went out with were very nice people that you just had no chemistry with. Well, you sat and talked to them, they were nice, one of them was nice and honest. You know, they didn't look like Quasimodo. You know, they may have not been your exact type.
Right, but like I said, it's something I paid for, and they weren't
supplying. You weren't satisfied. You didn't get a guarantee, sir, that you were going to meet.
But they
that you were going to meet Cinderella.
I had this. It's not the Cinderella. It's not even a Cinderella factor. I have a form in there that says that they will try to get it better for you each time. We're gonna justify. We're gonna modify this for you, and it's not. There's no thought process to it.
I'm not sure there's no thought process. You have certain things that you want. That's what happens when you use a dating service.
Right.
You have comments on the women that he went out with?
I thought they were all very compatible. We matched by...
No, comments from the women. Like he filled out these forms.
We do.
He filled out these forms.
Yes,
so I'd like to see the forms that they filled out. I assume that you charge the women the same thing?
There's different memberships, so the pricing is based on the type of membership that they buy.
What do you mean different memberships? You pay one price, you get ugly people, you get good.
Based
one
on
price,
the
you get
number
better.
of referrals that you're purchasing.
Judge, that's
well, just a second. That's a lot of double talk. Where does it say that here? In this contract? That you're contracting $795 for 9 referrals. You have other contracts say you're contracting for different amounts for different numbers of referrals? Is that what you're saying?
Right.
So that's what it is. Was that explained to you, sir?
It's not working out. The second date that I had, she got very upset. During the meeting, she brought up the subject of how much did you pay for the date? And we both signed up, I think it was the same weekend. And she paid a couple $100 more than me, and she had a fit because she called Marcia. And Marcia called me, and also on that date, she called me up telling me that I have to give these women a chance and date them and get to know them.
Let me see their
That's
comments.
my money I have to spend on dates, not theirs.
You just told me you didn't spend any money on dates.
No, if I had to. They're telling me I should take them out.
Well, you didn't, sir. You didn't take them
No,
out.
I didn't, but I thought that was wrong. They should be telling me what I have to do. It's a service I paid for.
Have you always been single?
No.
How long were you married?
14 years.
Well, here's the woman that you went out with who was 43. Around your age. She said, when I met him at the restaurant, he did not even give me time to sit down. He told me he knew it would never work and got up and left. How embarrassing. He was the most impolite person I have ever met, and I feel very sorry for anyone who meets him. Did you just get up and leave?
No, I sat there with her for about 10 minutes or so talking, and I did tell her, I said, this is not going to work. I shook her hand, and I said, good luck to you. I hope you have good luck with the service.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I do not find that there was any fraud on the part of the defendants. Their contract clearly states that this is a non-refundable fee. You took advantage of their service on 3 occasions. It's certainly not what you had wanted, but the first one that you went out with, who you said was a nice person, who was in the age category that you had requested, you didn't find her particularly attractive, but that doesn't mean somebody else might not.
Exactly.
So they fulfilled their part of the contract according to this contract when they sent you out on 1 referral. They gave you another referral that you said was also not bad, probably in your age category, and you weren't crazy about her either. The only one that you got up and walked out on was this 43-year-old lady.
And I didn't just get up and walk out on her.
Okay.
We sat there for a while.
Sir, You're old enough so that when you sign a contract, you're supposed to read it and understand it. You're not supposed to let anybody flim-flam you by saying to you, you don't have to read the contract. You're in a contract-oriented business, so you should know better. If it didn't work out this way, try meeting and mingling.
Yeah,
That's all.
I find it's worked better.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
I'll state and I'll go to my deathbed saying that it's something I paid for, something I requested to save me money and time, and it wasn't supplied, and they just kind of throw what they want at them. That's my opinion. That's what I found. These are nice ladies. I don't know them personally, but if you're just talking about attractiveness, yes, they're attractive ladies.
Mr. Durand, according to your complaint, you became involved with the defendant while she was married and made a series of loans to her. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Several $1,000s, $3,000.
Almost $3,000, yes.
She says that you didn't make any loans. Whatever you gave her were gifts.
Gifts.
How did you meet each other?
Through a friend of mine's wedding. We both were involved in a wedding, and the lady that my buddy was marrying set us up to where we both walked down the aisle together.
And how long did this relationship last that you developed?
About 2.5 years.
It's a long time. You were living with your husband at the time?
Yes, and it was 2 years, ma'am.
Now tell me about these loans that you made to her during that time.
She'd asked for money. She said she wanted to get a job, and she needed money to get clothes and different things, and I gave her the money. At different times, she'd call and say, I need this much. I wrote a check for this amount, and I can't cover it. We put it in the bank on several different occasions. On receipts, I have all the bank receipts.
Well, just because you gave her money, Mr. Durand, doesn't mean that they were loans. What makes you think that they were loans, sir?
Well, the money I put in her account, I told her that had to be paid back. I gave her money also out of my pocket on different occasions.
I understand the dynamics of this situation from the papers that I have, which is you decided to stay with your husband and you called this relationship off.
Yes, ma'am.
And it was after that that you pursued these alleged loans.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Durand, were they loans?
Yes, at that time, yes, they were.
Which ones were loans, sir?
The ones I have the receipts from my bank account to her bank account on, yes, are loans.
And how much is that?
$2,920. The money that came straight out of my pocket, which is about $1,000, just giving her 100 here, 100 there, I told her don't worry about paying back.
Now, Mrs. Blick, $2,920 is what he said he has in bank receipts. Do you remember getting that kind of money from him?
Yes and no, ma'am.
Well, yes.
Okay, yes. But let me elaborate on that. I would pick up things, say groceries or whatever the case may be. I don't recall exactly everything I picked up, and he would say, if he didn't have the cash on hand, he would deposit it into my account.
That's a lot of groceries for $3,000.
No, it wasn't just groceries. It was several different things.
Like what?
Clothing.
For whom?
For himself.
Let me see the bank receipts, please. During this 2-year period, you were living with your husband or you were living with him?
No, I lived with my husband.
So what did groceries have to do with him?
No, if I was somewhere, he would ask me to pick up things for him. I would pick up things for him. If I was at the mall, he would ask me to pick up things. I would pick up things. He borrowed money from me and also deposited money into my account that he owed me.
Did you ever owe her any money?
No, ma'am.
For deposit to the account of Rob Blick.
That's her husband. I wrote
It's
it.
a joint account.
There's 2 receipts there on the same day. I think one's for 50 and one's for 110. One to her account, and one to her husband's account. To where I wrote a check, I can't cover it.
Just a second. That's sort of interesting. Didn't your husband ask where this money was coming from if this was a joint account?
Ma'am, it's a joint account, okay, yes. But if he owed me the money, I would give him the money. This account basically...
You're not answering my question, Mrs. Blick.
No, he didn't ask because this account basically I take care of. He doesn't.
I'm looking at deposits to your account, $600.
Okay.
$320. Where's odd numbers? $110.
Because this would be money also that he owed me, that he had borrowed from me.
Well, explain that to me, Mrs. Blick. Explain to me how he borrowed money from you.
He would say that he didn't have any money. Could he please borrow some money? And I said yes, and I let him borrow money.
Does that sound familiar, sir?
No, ma'am. I don't see how I could borrow money from her if she wasn't working at the time, trying to get on her feet. How can I borrow money from her?
If you would look at those statements, ma'am, I did work.
I didn't ask you whether you worked or not. It just doesn't, something doesn't smell right when you say that you lent him money.
Well, I did.
How much?
I don't know the total amount that I loaned him, but I never, ever asked him to borrow money. He didn't give me money that I asked to borrow, ever.
$2,900.
Yes.
He deposited into your account. And you're telling me that none of this was a loan?
No, ma'am, it was not.
Well, tell me about it. You tell me about it. And we're not talking groceries here. We're not talking about a box of cornflakes.
Well, I mean,
we're talking about, over a period of 2 years, almost $3,000, and that's not including what he says is cash out of pocket.
Okay, I will tell you about it. He would give me money. If I was going out, he would say, here, take some money, have some fun with your friends. He would ask me to borrow money because he does not work in the winter. He's off, several months. I'm not sure exactly how many months, and he did not work. There was times where he did not collect his unemployment for a certain amount of time. I don't know the balance there, how long it takes him to get his unemployment. He would ask for money from me also then. I would give him money because he had no money, no income whatsoever.
All these, Mr. Duran, receipts are for 1996. So that's during a 1-year period.
Yes, ma'am.
You say you had this affair over a 2-year period.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, when did you start giving him money?
Starting into the second year. The first year, we were just seeing each other, and then she said she wasn't happy with her husband. She loved him more as a brother than a husband. She wanted out. She wasn't happy, but she was staying because of her son, her one son.
Mm-hmm. Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
I'm not insecure, with our marriage. Obviously she was, but we're working through that.
And later today.
7 years, I'm his best friend. Like, I don't know him enough.
You were my best friend.
Well, Megan, you know what? If you wouldn't have slept around on him, maybe I still would be. Oh, yeah, right.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Mark Duran wants his former girlfriend, Melissa Blick, to pay back the money he loaned her when she was married to another man. Melissa says the money Mark gave her was a gift.
It was the wrong thing for her to get involved in this situation. It was also the wrong thing for you to get involved in this situation, sir. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
According to your papers, you have a tape that memorializes her statement that these were loans.
Yes.
When did you make that tape?
The last time I talked to her on the phone, which was, I think 4 months ago.
Mm-hmm. You want to tell me what it says on that tape?
I asked her when she's going to pay me. She says whenever. I told her to put it in my account. She said, to start with, she said no. At the end of the conversation, she agreed to put the money in my account. I gave her my account number, which is on the tape also. And she told me quit harassing her, which harassing her once every 3 months to call her, find out where my money is, I don't consider harassing. I told her if the money's not in my account, when I check my bank statements, that I want an answer why it's not there. And I won't call and harass her. And she agreed to that.
What did she say?
She said that she would start putting the money in my account. I told her I wanted $100, $50 to $100 a week. And she said, I can't promise you nothing because I have my truck payment or car payment out of one of her checks. And I said, well, if the money's not there, I want you to call me and let me know why it's not there so I don't have to call you and leave a message on your answer machine.
Does that sound familiar to you, Miss Blick?
The conversation we had, somewhat like that, yes. He did call my house.
Where you said that you would put money in his account.
Yes, but I didn't owe him the money. I was just trying to get this man to leave me alone. He has harassed me. He has harassed my son. He has threatened to do things to me. He has told me I've had to watch my back. It was so bad.
Are you telling me that if I were to play this tape, it would say that you would start to put the money that you owed him into his account every week.
Yes.
That's it. I don't have to listen to the tape. Listen, Mr. Duran, she acknowledged that this was a loan. She acknowledged it on this tape. I don't have to listen to the tape because she's already told me that she told you that she would put the money in your account. I don't believe you, madam, when you say you told him that because he was harassing you. He wants his money. The two of you were involved in an affair that probably shouldn't have taken place. However, he gave you money. Some were gifts. $50 out of his pocket, go have a good time, is not a loan. That's a gift. But clearly, you had an understanding that some of it was supposed to be returned. Perhaps if you had, in fact, left your husband and gone to live with him and had a life together, he would have forgiven those loans. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Exactly what was said.
Well, Mr. Durand, you know the old song, Never Get Involved with a Married Man?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Goes the other way around, too, sir. All right. I'm satisfied that at least the monies that were placed in the defendant's bank account were placed there as a loan, and I am awarding you $2,920. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. The woman never needed money. If she needed money, she'd come to me. I never asked questions of what she did with the money. As far as what happened between them two, I don't really know. I'm not insecure, you know, with our marriage. Obviously she was, but we're working through that.
I apologize for what went on between me and his wife, and I hope that if it does work out between them.
And now the next case.
Parties on Blas versus Blas. Step forward, please.
21-year-old medical receptionist Megan Blas claims her ex-husband, 22-year-old administrative assistant Philip Blas, owes her for a repossessed car and credit card bills. He's countersuing her for physical and mental abuse.
You folks were married for a short time and divorced.
Yes.
Yes.
And you are suing your former husband because you allege that he left you with a large debt.
Yes.
And you feel as if he should be responsible for half of the debt.
That's right.
You have a countersuit, sir.
Yes.
Some of that's nonsense. But basically, you are saying that, A, most of the stuff that's on the credit card bills and the other bills that she's complaining about were in her possession.
Mm-hmm.
B, you paid for a lot of the things, most of the things when you were married.
Yes.
And C, you want to be compensated for all the mental anguish that you went through because of her.
Yes.
Mental anguish is a subjective thing, sir. You're no longer subject to mental anguish because now you're divorced. Got it?
Got it.
Good. All right, so, Ms. Blas, let's talk about these things that you say your former husband is responsible for, at least in part. Let's start with the biggie on your list. Something about American General. Now,
Yes.
what's that for?
Well, it was, we refinanced the car that we had because the finance company that we were with charged too much interest, so we went to something that was cheaper. And we also took an amount that I had already borrowed from them and an amount he had already borrowed and just all collaborated it into one payment.
For the car?
Yes.
What kind of car was this?
A Honda Civic CRX.
What year?
87.
What happened to the car?
It's since been repossessed and sold.
At the time that you separated, which was in what year?
97.
Where was the car?
It was in my possession.
So you kept the car?
Yes, I did.
And it was repossessed because you stopped making payments?
We both stopped making payments, yes.
Well, did you expect him to make payments on a car that you were driving?
No, I didn't.
So the car was repossessed because you stopped making payments?
Right.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
She had an affair on him. That's
Sit down. Talking money, they're talking sex.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Megan Blas wants her ex-husband, Philip Blas, to pay for a repossessed car and some credit card bills. He wants her to pay for physical and mental abuse.
What was your arrangement with her with the car, sir?
The agreement on the car was if she were to take back the car, she would make the payments and she'd make the insurance on it.
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So then why are you suing him?
He co-signed on the loan, and so he is equally responsible, as from what I understand.
Hold it. Let me understand this. You separated. You said to him, I want the car.
Right.
And if you give me the car, I'll assume the payments.
I never said I really would. I mean...
You just told me you said you would. You just told me you said you would.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
So he turned the car over to you.
Right. But then since the loan is in both of our names...
I understand that. So you take care of it. You told him, give me the car and I'll take over the payments.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
And you didn't.
Right.
So, take care of it. You made an arrangement with him. Give me the car and I will be responsible for it, is what you're saying. Then you weren't responsible for it. You weren't responsible, period. They repossessed the car. You want him to pay for half of whatever the deficit was.
Right.
Ridiculous. Next. That's the biggie. Let's go to the Sears bill. What did you buy at Sears?
Numerous household items.
Like what?
Television.
Where's the television?
In my house.
What else?
CD player that was in the car.
CD player that was in the car?
Yes.
That was in your possession?
Right.
That got repossessed?
Mm-hmm.
What else?
Clothing for the both of us.
Clothing. Well, he seems to say that he bought a few items of clothing. Right?
Yes.
What clothing did he put on this Sears card?
Work clothing.
How much was it worth?
I don't have an exact amount.
Well, then I can't give you an exact order. What else was on the Sears card? Anything else?
No.
No. That takes care of the Sears card. Gottschalk's. What kind of a store is that?
It's a department store.
And whose items were on that?
Both of ours.
What?
Clothing, mostly.
Does that sound familiar to you?
Maybe a pair of pants and a work shirt. That was about it. And I wasn't even allowed to charge on the Gottschalk's bill, so I had no access to it at all.
Whose name was that card in?
Mine, but he also had a card.
Did you have a card?
No, ma'am.
You have a bill from Gottschalk's?
I do not have a bill because I was not able to get those.
You get a bill every month.
I do, but they don't break it down.
We're talking about $338 Gottschalk's bill, right?
Yes.
Half of that is $169.
Correct.
But you can't establish to me what part of that $338 were his clothes. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. Let's get to your countersuit, because that might take care of the whole ball of wax. You say that you borrowed $700 to buy this car. Is that right?
No, that was $700. There was a car payment that had to be made, rent, utilities, and those kind of things.
When was that?
It was over a period of time, a period of about 3 or 4 months.
Is that right before you separated?
Maybe 4 months before we separated.
Oh, please. Mr. Blass, forget about it, sir. Forget about that part of your countersuit.
Okay.
Because you can't substantiate. This is kind of nonsense. Now, tell me about this mental anguish and be very, very brief.
There was physical abuse. I ended up having to defend myself a couple of times.
When you say defend yourself, you mean she hit you and you hit her?
She hit me, and I stopped her from hitting me.
Stopped her? What'd you stop her with?
My hands.
Okay. Is that why I assume you separated?
No, there's some other details in there.
I don't want to know the other details.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
You had mental anguish when you were living with your former wife?
Yes.
You're not living with her anymore?
No.
Ma'am, may I say that I had mental anguish also?
Good.
I mean, it could
Everybody
go
has
both
mental
ways.
anguish. Let me tell you something,
No matter what
folks.
relationship.
Let me tell you something. If you didn't have mental anguish, the two of you might still be together.
Correct.
You had mental anguish. You were smart enough to put a period and move on with your lives.
Right.
Why you're still suing each other, I have no idea.
Your Honor, may I say something?
Why?
Who
are you?
I'm his best friend. She had an affair on him. That's
Sit down. Talking money, they're talking sex. Look, Miss Blass, you didn't like living with him, you filed for divorce, you got a divorce, he defaulted, right?
Correct.
Put a period, move on with your life. Sir,
Yes.
but for the fact that she sued you, you would never be here. Is that correct?
Yes.
Good. So put a period, move on. Lawsuit, countersuit, dismissed. Have a nice day.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Back to what you right.
And on the next Judge Judy.
All I have to say is what comes around goes around, and she'll get hers in the end, and I feel very sorry for her.
There was a lot of physical abuse going on, and there was stuff that
It was mutual. I've known him for 7 years. He's never once laid a hand on another woman, Megan.
On those, maybe.
On those 7 years, I'm his best friend. Like, I don't know him enough.
You were my best friend.
Well, Megan, you know what? If you wouldn't have slept around on him, maybe I still would be. Oh, yeah, right.
Oh. Forget it.
Yeah, it's case number 407 on the calendar in the matter of Martin versus Jones. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Mr. Martin, Mr. Jones, according to your papers, lives in your neighborhood.
Yes,
And he assaulted you in April of 1997.
correct.
Tell me what happened, sir.
Do you want me to start with the event that precipitated the attack?
I think that's probably a good
One
place to
evening,
start.
I was watching television. I heard noises, and then I heard horn honks, and I started looking out my window. It's very dark. The street dead ends into the ocean, into the boardwalk. And I'd hear a horn honk, and I'd look down, and for a period of about 30 minutes, I would see a lighted match, and this gentleman had been over the steering wheel, and I didn't know whether somebody was trying to hotwire an automobile, the intermittent honks. Does he have an accomplice? Is there something going on with a robbery? I didn't know. Finally, I decided that I'd better call the police. I didn't call 911. I called the police number and asked for an investigation. The police came out. He was crunched into the shrubbery and parked illegally up over the curb, and they gave him a drunk test, arrested him, and took him away in handcuffs.
Did you see the face of the person at the time you called the police?
No, I didn't have any idea. It was too dark. I had no idea. It was a new truck. I've lived in that neighborhood 39 years. I'd never seen the truck before. I couldn't tell who was in the car.
Now, Mr. Jones, were you arrested on that evening?
Yes, I was, Your Honor.
And was the arrest for being intoxicated and in a truck?
Driving under the influence, though the truck was parked in a driveway.
So far his story is correct. Is that right?
Pretty much so.
And did you find out who it was that had called the police?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so what happened next, sir?
About, it was on the night of April 18, sometime in the middle of the evening, this fellow came to my door and started cursing me and threatened to kill me. I slammed the door in his face and went into my home and called the police and told them what had happened, that I was a witness, which I was a reluctant witness to let the police use my name in the first place. Now I have this fellow on my back and I need some help.
Okay.
They said to call him if there was any trouble there nearby. They came and asked if I knew where he lived, and I knew he lived in the alley in an apartment nearby. So the police officers went back to locate him. They couldn't locate him according to the police report, and I have the copy of the police report here. His truck was illegally parked. A sergeant came and they opted to tow the truck away. When he appeared on the scene, he started using vulgar language, calling the police officers four-letter words beginning with an F at least 10 times, according to the report. And they left. I walked down.
They left with his truck?
No, yes, they towed the truck. So I went back up and started watching television and kind of fell asleep. There was a banging on my door. I answered the door. He grabbed me, punched me, and knocked me through a plate glass window. And we had a fight in the street that lasted 5 or 10 minutes. My neighbors called the police. They arrived, and by this time I had him down, pounding him pretty good on the ground, and they restrained me, picked him up, put him in handcuffs, and took him to jail.
So what kind of injuries did you sustain as a result of this, sir?
Well, I have, if I may, these are the photos the police took.
And I'd like to see the police report as well.
Here's the police, and I've highlighted some of the statements. In addition, I had Charlie Horse, a sprained knee.
How old are you, sir?
I'll be 70 in September.
All right, Mr. Jones, let's cut to the chase. The first time you were arrested, you found out who it was. You were pretty angry. I assume you were pretty angry. And the second time your car was towed, you went to his house. Is that right?
I went to his house the week following the DUI,
And yes, I was upset because I was not driving. But
Well, that's not his
beside
fault.
the point.
That's not his fault. So what did you go to his house for?
Because he had called the police, and he gave them reports that are not accurate, not true.
Like what, Mr. Jones?
The crashing, the banging, the horn honking. Just not true.
Oh, how would you know that if you had been drinking?
I was not oblivious, Your Honor.
Good. You were angry, Mr. Jones, at the wrong person. The person you should have been angry at is yourself. You live in a different building, correct?
Correct.
But you went to his house.
Yes, I did.
Why did you go to his house?
I had never seen the man. I had never confronted him with his comments that he makes to me and other neighbors.
Don't tell me about other neighbors.
Okay. He is correct. He slammed the door in my face, and I went home. I'm in bed, and I hear a commotion out in back, and yes, my truck is being towed. And there's no doubt in my mind that he called the police.
Okay.
You know?
So you came out of the
When
house?
I went to his house, he slams the door. To me, that was the end of story. I go home, go to bed. And yes, now I'm upset.
Well,
And
you went to his house. You just didn't go into his house. You
No,
knocked
I
at the
knocked-
door of his house, and you
knocked
must
on
have
the
said
door.
something to him. What did you say to him?
that I wanted to talk to him as to why he was doing these things.
In a nice, quiet tone of
I
voice.
probably wasn't quiet, but I was
Probably
not belligerent.
So he slammed the door.
Yes, he did.
And so you went home and went to sleep.
I was in bed, yes.
And your truck was again parked illegally.
Questionable.
According to the police, it
According
was
to the
parked
police.
illegally. So they came out and they were towing your truck, which woke you up.
Yes.
And what did you do?
I watched it being towed away, and I went over to Mr. Martin's house again. Knocked
This
on.
time you must have been really angry because you went over the first time a little bit angry. The second time you were smoking.
I was angry.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You pled no contest, sir, which means you were found guilty. So if you don't remember that, sir, I suggest you better stop drinking because your brain is getting fried.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 69-year-old Carl Martin claims 35-year-old Michael Jones knocked him through a plate glass window after Carl had him arrested. He's suing for damage and medical bills.
So what did you do when you went over to him, Mr. Jones?
When I was knocking on his door,
At what time
it's
was
like
this?
the man had baited
As-
me because he did not come out of the house. He came down the sidewalk bellowing, "You son of a bitch."
Why do you...
Now, I don't know the man. I have no idea of his age. I know that I was being threatened by this person coming down the sidewalk at me.
What were you doing at his house, sir?
Do I not have some type of a justification to find out why this person is doing these things to me?
Uh-huh. Now, you were arrested, Mr. Jones, is that right?
Yes, I was.
Bail posted?
Acquitted.
Bail posted.
Yes.
Did you go to trial?
Yes.
Was there a trial?
Yes, there was.
And you were found not guilty.
Correct.
Is that right, Mr. Martin?
I'm not aware of that. I have a statement here that he was ordered to pay restitution for damages, but...
Let me see. Just a second. When you say you're not aware of that, Mr. Martin, that's very interesting to me, sir.
Well, I wasn't aware of the decision by the police. I was angry that he was released.
What I'm asking you, Mr. Martin, is did you go and testify at a trial?
No, I did not. I was not invited.
You did not go
Did
to
not.
testify at
I
a
did
trial.
not.
Well, you can't have a trial, Mr. Jones, unless the complainant is there to testify. So how did you have a trial without him?
To my knowledge, I don't know his exact words, but what he told the judge was because of the history, prior history.
If you don't know what the exact words were, sir,
In
then you
effect-
don't know. Say, listen,
in
sometimes
effect, he
that's
called
hard
us-
for people to say, I don't know.
In effect, he called us mutual combatants.
Okay. Now, you said there was a trial and you were
Arraignment.
acquitted.
Arraignment.
You said there was a trial and you were acquitted, so that was a falsehood. There was no trial because at a trial you have a complaining witness. And since there was no complaining witness, you didn't have a trial. So you had something else.
Well, I'm not sure what it is, Your Honor. You have to forgive me.
You
I'm
are
not,
an intelligent man, Mr. Jones, I think.
familiar with the judicial.
My 9-year-old grandson knows the difference between a trial and not a trial. Mr. Jones.
Yes.
This is addressed to the plaintiff. And it says you, Michael Charles Jones. That's you, right?
Correct.
It says the above-named person has been ordered to pay restitution to you for the damages incurred to your property in the crime of which he or she has been convicted. A hearing in this regard has been set in the Long Beach Municipal Court on September 19th, 1997, in Department J. Now, I assume, sir, that you appeared in that proceeding on September 19th, 1997.
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
And what happened?
It was dismissed because there was no conviction of the crime.
Could I see the paper that you have?
This is just a letter stating that I don't have the disposition of the court cases, but the judge at that hearing determined there was no grounds for restitution if I was not convicted of anything.
Mr. Jones, are you serious with me, sir?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
Are you really serious with me?
I'm very serious.
Uh-huh. Let me explain something to you. The prosecuting attorney indicates that you, A, pled guilty to driving under the influence of alcohol.
Correct.
And that you were to appear in court on September 19th for a damages hearing.
And I was there, Your Honor.
And
Mr. Martin was not there.
he doesn't have to be there.
I don't know.
He doesn't have to be there.
Okay.
And the case was not dismissed. Mr. Jones, case could not have been dismissed.
Your Honor, it was dismissed.
Well, let's go find out. You want me to go find? You had a lawyer in that case?
Yes, I did.
What's your lawyer's name? Let me
It's on that paper.
Joette something or other?
Courier, yes.
Let's go see. Now, I do have your permission to speak to this lawyer, don't I, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I think people like this should be handled in a way to see that they don't repeat this sort of an attack on a
You are
citizen.
one malevolent, mean-spirited, delusional character. You know that?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Retired school principal Carl Martin fought with his neighbor, Michael Jones. Carl wants his medical bills plus pain and suffering.
Yes, Miss Courier, this is Judge Sheindlin. I'm calling with regard to a client of yours, Michael Charles Jones, who is currently a litigant before me in a civil action stemming from a representation that you gave him some 8 or 9 months ago. Are you familiar with him? He is appearing before my court today in the civil action brought by Mr. Martin. I have his permission to speak with you. If you want me to verify that, I will. Now, he has given me permission because there is an issue involving the disposition of the assault case with regard to Mr. Martin, and I have letters from the prosecuting attorney, and I opted to call you prior to calling him because I figured you would have this easily at your disposal. I have a letter here dated the 23rd of May from the prosecuting attorney, C. Raymond George, which indicates that Mr. Jones had been convicted, I assume on a plea or a no contest. Now, that's the issue. Can you resolve that for me? Was there a plea? Was there a negotiated disposition? And what was it? Sure, absolutely. Good. You're much more organized than most lawyers, if you can find the file so fast. How long will it take you to look it up? And all I really need is just the disposition on this particular assault case where the plaintiff was Carl Martin. Okay, will do. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Order. Step back up, please.
Mr. Jones, your file is so thick, your lawyer needs 15 minutes to find the right case. And then I'm going to call her back so that she can give me the disposition on this particular case, which you say you were found not guilty on.
The files were so convoluted between the two charges of the DUI and the assault, they mixed them all together, and yes, it's very difficult to sort anything out.
These two files between the DUI and the assault case
They
were not
all
the...
came under the same case number.
They're not the only files she has to look through of yours, sir. Right?
That is true, Your Honor.
Right. You've got a big file, Mr. Jones.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Yes, Miss Corriere, please. Hi. Well, did you find it? Did he pay the fine? You don't know. Okay, so the... Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you for your help. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Order. Resume your places, please.
Now, Mr. Jones, your lawyer is lovely. You pled no contest, sir, which means you were found guilty, because the judge explained to you at that time that a plea of no contest was exactly the same as a plea of guilty. There would be a conviction. Your sentence was suspended on condition that you pay $300 in fines on this case. So if you don't remember that, sir, I suggest you better stop drinking because your brain is getting fried. Plea of no contest is just like you pled guilty or went to trial and were found guilty. That's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. That means, sir, that in this civil proceeding, where the quantum of proof is a lot less than beyond a reasonable doubt, you owe him the money. The only issue is, how much do you owe him? Let me see those pictures again.
You want to see my bills also?
I'm not interested in your bills.
This
You wouldn't
was
have
not a
any bills.
one-sided
You wouldn't have
event.
any bills, sir. You wouldn't have any bills. Put your hand down. You're winning. Be quiet. You wouldn't have any bills if you stayed in your bed. That's why you pled guilty. So I'm
not
looking
going
at
to
these.
argue that point, Your Honor. That is totally incorrect.
Listen to me, sir. Then I suggest you go back to your lawyer and tell your lawyer that you made a big mistake by pleading no contest. Because right now, that's what you have. You have a plea, you have a sentence that was suspended, and you have a fine that you were supposed to have paid, which I assume you paid, of $300. That's to the court. The issue of damages to the plaintiff was never addressed. So I'm looking at this gentleman's face. And this face is worth, sir, exactly what you're suing for, which is $5,000. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Yeah. Didn't need it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Back door to your right.
And on the next Judge Judy.
Somebody needs to confront people like this to let them know that they can't get away with their maliciousness, their pettiness. And like I say, I'm not the only one. Sometimes you have to take a stand.
I think people like this should be handled in a way to see that they don't repeat this sort of an attack on a
You are
citizen.
one malevolent, mean-spirited, delusional character. You know that?
Happy to
Why
be able
don't
to
you go
report the
seclude
facts.
yourself in your house again with your $5 grand and enjoy it, and you can drink yourself to death. I ended up through
and the
that window
police-
also and severed nerves and
And the
tendons in my
police,
hands.
Thank God. And
Yeah,
the
you
police
like that,
statement,
don't you?
Damn right. When I'm a tax fellow, you're going to get what you got.
See, now we start to see the
Yeah.
man's true nature. The man's a sociopath.
You got to grow up and get some conscience and maybe be able to deal with the truth.
on the calendar in the matter of Wishard versus Hayes. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir.
Oh, Miss Wishard. You have a problem.
Yes.
You had an on-again, off-again relationship with this gentleman.
Yes.
According to these papers, mostly off.
Yes.
But for a fleeting moment while it was on, you got yourself pregnant. Now it's off. Right? What are you laughing about? She didn't do that by herself. Right? And to add insult to injury, he owes you money.
Yes.
So, why don't you tell me what he owes you money for?
He owes me around $660. In January, we got an apartment together under the pretense that he was going to get a salary job. He had been working for his brother, and it was kind of a partnership relationship, so if they didn't get paid, they didn't get paid.
How long had you been together up until that point?
Around 2 years.
And were you living together before that?
For about 3 months prior to that, but not before that.
Had you discussed getting married?
A few times.
Did you do the talking or did he do the talking?
I guess it depended on the situation. You know, when I felt like I wanted to, I would talk to him, and usually when he would screw up, then he would talk to me about it.
What do you mean when he would screw up?
When, you know, when he had done something wrong and knew he was at fault, then he would say, oh, baby, you know, I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I want to be with you forever. Let's get married.
He actually used the M word.
Yes, yes.
Spending the rest of my life with you, wanting to be with you together, I've heard a lot since I've been sitting here. The M word I haven't heard so much. So you took this new apartment.
Yes.
You both signed the lease.
Yes.
And what happened?
We got 2 weeks free rent because we moved in the middle of January. And then it was coming time for rent to be due at the beginning of February. He had not gotten a salary position with his brother or with any other company. And I told him that he either needed to get the rent money together or get out. And then I said, no, I don't even want to bother with that. Either you need to leave or I need to leave, and we need to settle up on the lease.
Was it the financial frustration that finally
that was part of it, and just he wasn't owning up to his responsibility. I would have never moved in the larger and more expensive apartment if he had just told me, no, Amy, I'm not gonna get a salary position. I'm gonna keep working for my brother. Then at least I would have known, and it would have been up to me at that time if I wanted, you know, to move on further or drop it there. But
what kind of work do you do?
I'm a loan officer for a mortgage company.
So either he was going to leave or you were going to leave.
Right.
What happened?
And I had decided that I would leave. I went and got my things, and we agreed that we were going to come in a few days later and sign papers for him to take over responsibility of the lease. Then, prior to when we were supposed to go in and sign the papers, they called me and said he had moved all his things out, which was untrue because we had already decided that I was going to leave and he was going to take over the lease. I even told him I would pay that half for that month where he could find a roommate, and he said there were too many painful memories and he just couldn't stay there.
So $660 is half of the rent for February?
Well, we had to break the lease. So they charged us that month's rent, plus they charged us another month's rent, you know, for breaking the lease, plus 2 months utility fees. And I have all the fees that they...
So it all comes to $660?
His half.
And what else do you say he owes you for?
And then I loaned him $450. Later on that year, he said he needed to pay some other kind of...
Well, when did this happen?
In January.
Of '97?
Yes.
So after you broke up and after everything else, you lent him more money?
Yes.
Amy!
Yeah. Well, we were on speaking terms at the time and on a friendship basis.
So what did he need this money for?
He said he needed to pay lawyer's fees or court fees for some other case he was going to.
What other case?
I think it might have been a custody battle. I'm not sure.
And you gave him the money?
Yes.
Do you have proof that you gave him the money?
I have a check that I wrote out to cash. I didn't write it to him.
Well, somebody had to cash it.
That he cashed at my bank.
Oh. And when did you find out you were pregnant?
In August.
So after you broke up in January, you were a little more than just friends.
Yeah, later on. Yes, ma'am.
But then you broke up again?
Well, before I found out I was pregnant, we were trying to work things out. And prior to me being pregnant, I had taken a trip, and I told him, he knew I was going, but I didn't call him before I left. And he was upset over that. So when I told him I was pregnant, he said that he wasn't the father and that he didn't take any responsibility.
Well, you'd be able to establish that if you have to after the baby's
Well,
born.
later on he said he was, but...
In any event, later on,
right.
you'll be able to do blood tests and there won't be any issue with regard to that, if that's what you want.
Right.
Okay. I'm ready.
Prior to signing the new lease, we were going through some problems, and I asked Amy, I kept asking over and over, if she's not comfortable with it, let's don't sign this new lease. She kept saying that she was, so therefore we went and signed the new lease.
What do you mean? That's all very soft.
What?
You were going through some problems. You mean emotional problems? You were fighting? What do you mean?
She wasn't comfortable where we were at. I don't think she was comfortable with me. Just things of that nature. And I kept asking her, you know, before we make this next move, I want you to be comfortable. And she kept assuring me that she was. So we made this next move. And before I moved out, she moved out. In the same day, or it may have been the next day, I'm not sure, she moved back in. So then, the next day, we had this discussion where more or less she kicked me out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Why would I just give him $450? He said, yes, I will pay you back.
I don't even remember getting the money.
And later today.
And I told her that she needed to bug off. That's just my words. Because that was my son. I carried him 9 months, and she had nothing to say.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Amy Wishard claims Ken Hayes owes her for a loan and a broken lease. Ken says he doesn't owe the soon-to-be mother of his child anything.
Let's make it easy. If a relationship doesn't work out, this doesn't look like the kind of lady, and you've known her a long time, who conned you into going into another apartment in order to throw you out so that 2 weeks later she'd have to move out. That doesn't make sense. She's an intelligent woman, right?
Yes, she is.
So what she was hoping for was that your relationship would work. And it seems to me, from what you told me, sir, that you both have tried to make it work even after that February when you were no longer together, right?
Right.
So she shouldn't have to bear the full financial responsibility for the apartment and for the lease and breaking the lease, right? That sounds fair, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Good. Now let's talk about this $450, this check for cash for $450. What'd you need the money for?
As looking back on it, Your Honor, we were in a relationship, and in a relationship, you exchange gifts, money, things of that nature. I never looked at it as being a loan. I have to pay it back.
What did you need the money for, sir, is my question.
I don't recall. I don't even remember getting the money.
Were you involved in some sort of litigation in April?
No.
Do you have a child?
Yes.
How old is your child?
She's 5 years old.
Had you been to court with the child's mother?
No.
Around April?
No.
Were you having problems with visitation?
No.
Well then, what did you need the money for, sir?
I don't recall. I don't even remember getting the money.
Your Honor, he came to my place of work. I was working at a bank at the time. Amy, I need to borrow $450. I promise you I'll pay you this back in the next couple days. I said, Ken, are you sure that's a lot of money? I can't just be throwing around $450. Why would I just give him $450? He said, yes, I will pay you back. And when I spoke to him about the incident with the rent, I said, and you owe me $450, and he said, I haven't paid you back for that yet? Now, why would he say that if it was a gift? He knew it was a loan.
When is your baby due?
May.
Are you still working with your brother?
Yes.
You finally making a living?
Yeah. Thank you.
When this baby comes, and I assume when you are satisfied beyond any shadow of a doubt that this baby is yours, you're going to pay support for the baby?
Yes.
Great. We're going to start now by filling back up her little nest egg for money that you owe her. That's $660 and $450 that she loaned to you in April of 1997. Grand total is $1,110. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
And now the next case.
All parties on Davidson versus Davidson. Step forward, please.
Banker Bobby Davison is suing her ex-husband, Louis Davison, for half of their son's funeral costs.
You folks have been divorced for a long time. How many years?
30, approximately.
And sadly, your son was killed in an automobile accident when he was in his 30s.
Yes.
How old was he? 30?
36.
And according to your complaint, Ms. Davison, your former husband agreed to pay for half of your son's funeral expenses.
That's correct.
And then he reneged on that agreement, and according to him, gave you $1,000 towards the expenses. Is that right?
Yes.
He has a defense that is interesting. So why don't you tell me about the arrangements that you started to make for your son and how your former husband was involved?
Well, at the time that I received word that my son had passed, and we went to the funeral home to make the arrangements for the burial, it was agreed on that we would go 50-50 on the funeral expenses.
Well, according to these papers, let me stop you for a moment.
Sure.
You agreed in the funeral director's office that each of you would be responsible for half the bill. But then, according to these papers, the funeral director said that since your son was married, you had no right legally to make the arrangements because even though you're his parents, you were not his next of kin. His wife had to approve the agreement. Is that right? There was another meeting with the funeral director.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Your Honor.
And who was present at that meeting?
His wife, my ex's wife.
That's you?
Yes, ma'am. And myself.
You weren't there?
No, I was not.
Why weren't you there?
I was working.
Okay, so you sent your wife
So
and
I
your
sent my wife to represent me.
Fine. And what happened at that meeting?
Well, at that meeting is when the Mrs. Davison, Sue Davison, and Tammy and I went in to review the casket that we had picked out. Then Sue Davison said that we should change it to a wooden box, that her father was buried in a pine box, and why couldn't we bury it? And I told her that she needed to bug off. That's just my words. Because that was my son, I carried him 9 months, and she had nothing to say or do with my funeral arrangements that was being made. Because Tammy financially was not able to take care of the expenses, and it was up between my ex and myself.
So what happened?
So after a few choice words with Mrs. Davison, Sue Davison, she said that she would give Tammy $1,000, and Tammy was to do with that whatever she wanted to do with it. And so Tammy, in terms, handed it over to the mortician, and that was applied to the funeral expenses.
Is that pretty much the story, sir?
So far, yes.
And how much were the expenses in total?
I don't have exact total, but Mr. Davison's share would be $23,59.67.
Now, does that include the $1,000 that he gave you?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Your Honor.
So you've given him credit for that?
Yes,
so that
sir.
The funeral was
approximately
$6,500, $6,600.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Hopefully, when people come to court, they can reach some sort of resolution, even without somebody banging them over their heads.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bobby Davison wants her ex-husband, Louis Davison, to pay his share of their son's funeral costs. Louis says Bobby changed the arrangements at the last minute, making the funeral too expensive.
Okay, Mr. Davison. Initially, you agreed to share the expenses with your former wife. And now you said no. Tell me why, sir.
Okay, originally,
if I could approach you and show you this, or somebody could show you this, that when we were talking to the mortician, or the gentleman who was making the arrangements, that when he found out that Tammy was still legally married to my son, that everything that we had done to that point was null and void.
Okay. May I see the paper that you have, sir?
Okay. And this is the original one that we had signed up to that point where he found out.
I'd like to see it, please.
I'll just take that now. That was the original form that we had signed.
Okay. So the total of what you originally agreed to was $36.31. Is that correct?
At that point, yes.
Now, Ms. Davison, the original agreement that your husband said, I will pay for half, was for $3,631. At your second meeting, you chose to spend $6,500, according to you.
Well, at the time, all the funeral expenses was supposed to be 50-50.
That's not what I'm asking you.
I know you're not, but that does not include an open and closing of the grave, which I had to go out and pay myself.
How much was it to open and close the grave?
$1,024.
Now, Mr. Davison, did you understand so that there would be an additional cost to open and close the grave?
At that time, no, I did not.
Well, I'm going to ask you an interesting question, because this is more of a moral question than a legal one. If you had known, I don't want you to try to remove yourself from where you are right now, but if you had known at the time that to open and close the grave was going to cost $1,025, would you have agreed to pay for half of that?
I would agree to help, yes.
Okay. That still, Miss Davidson, brings the total to $4,600, not $6,500. He agreed to pay $36.31. So I believe that an argument can be made that you obligated yourself for the amount of $3,600. You only paid half of $3,600 or $1,800, and you only gave her $1,000, which means minimally you owe her $800 for the expenses of the funeral. And the only thing that I want to ask you, Mr. Davison, the original amount that you agreed to contribute did not include the opening and closing of the grave. It was only for the funeral director. And I'm asking you if today you are prepared to contribute something towards the opening and closing of the grave.
Okay, if the circumstances at the time, right now, to answer your question,
you'll feel better if you say yes.
Well, there's no question I'd feel better, but that was not the problem.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Hopefully, when people come to court, they can reach some sort of resolution, even without somebody banging them over their heads. I think that morally, if not legally, you should be responsible for seeing to it that your son received an appropriate burial. And certainly that includes opening and closing the grave. That's what the cost was.
Yeah.
Okay? What you originally agreed to, I am going to portion in half. And I'm also going to portion half of the cost of internment to you because you've consented to do that, which I think is the right thing. You'll sleep better, Mr. Davison.
I haven't been properly sleeping.
You'll sleep better. So, Ms. Davison, I'm giving you a judgment in the amount of $1,327. Thank you. That's all.
Please excuse, you may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
My husband's ex-wife, Bobby Davison, omitted my name and my 4 children, whom my husband and I have raised for 24 years, out of the obituary. We weren't included at all. Like 24 years didn't matter.
It was just an oversight if it was left out.
I hope I never see her again in my life.
Feelings is mutual.
Cheatham versus Oldenkamp, Celine.
Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me first say that when you prepare papers for court, which are a complaint and an answer, and in your case, a countersuit, You're supposed to prepare them so that the judge, in reading over a file, can understand the nature of your lawsuit. And quite frankly, sir, I don't understand what you're suing for. Something about a computer, something about slander. I have no idea how this problem started. And quite frankly, I don't understand your countersuit either. So, go ahead, Mr. Cheatham.
Now, there are 3 separate cases, as you know. The first case is that I had to move out of my apartment because it had gotten flooded. And Roy was coming over and using the computer every day because we were working on a play together.
So you were writing together?
No, we were working together
What
on
does
a
that
play.
mean?
He was doing the publicity, and at the time I had a client that was doing the play.
What do you mean you had a client that was doing the play?
I had a client who was the star of the show, of the Dorothy Dandridge show. So he didn't have a computer, so he was coming over all the time to use a computer.
So you're in the publicity business?
I was helping him out, yes, working for him at his place of business. And
Which was his apartment?
His apartment, right.
That got flooded?
I never heard anything about it getting flooded or saw any evidence of it.
Go ahead.
So John suggested, John is my housemate, decided that we should leave the computer with Roy while we were out of the apartment and they were repairing it.
Okay.
That's the
Apartment
first
got
part
flooded.
of the case.
You had your computer. You left it with him.
Yes.
Okay. Who bought this computer?
Me.
Do you have his computer?
I have the computer he gave me as partial payment for back wages due for work I did at his address, which is also his business, which I worked at for a year and a half, helping him not just do one play, but his entire business. And I have files and evidence of the things I did, some of the things that I did while I was there.
Well, so you say he handed this computer over to you as partial payment for the work?
Yes, he said that he was in the process of brokering a deal to sell a painting by Goya, the artist, that his commission, he was selling it to a Hungarian count, and his commission would be at least $350,000.
Did you tell him that?
Your Honor, I can't talk about that case. That case is being in litigation as we speak.
Well,
yes.
you have to talk about it, sir.
Yes.
I'm going to tell you why. Because he says that you gave him this computer, but that you were working on a big deal and that hopefully you were going to get your computer back. Is that right?
No, he was going to pay me more money additionally. The computer was partial payment for monies due. And he came over to my house, set it up, and said he'd have more money for me when this went through, this brokering deal, which I don't know anything about how it happened after that.
Had you owed him any money, sir?
No. Not
he was
for
doing
work.
Well, how was he being compensated for doing the publicity
He was
work?
working for the show. He was not working for me. He was working for J.H. Doyle Production, and I have the witness to that effect.
This witness?
This witness.
Would you stand up, please?
Certainly.
Who are you?
I'm Sloan Robinson. And
what
I
do you
was
do?
the actress that was doing the play Yesterday Came Too Soon, the Dorothy Dandridge story. And I know that at that time, Roy came on to our production as a publicist. And I do know that they were working together on that production.
That's one thing I did.
The checks for that were supposed to come through Clarence to Roy.
I never got paid for that either.
And
Just a second. One thing.
From my knowledge, Mr. Cheatham was not responsible for paying Roy's fee.
He's my agent.
Was
She
the
was the actress.
production
She would have no
company.
knowledge.
The
He's my
production
agent.
company was supposed to be paying his fee.
How do you know that?
That's
Where is the
what I
person
was
from?
told.
You can't tell me what you were told.
Okay.
Sit down.
Okay.
Just a second. Were you doing any other work for him other than on this particular Dorothy Dandridge story
Yes, ma'am.
play?
That play was only 3 months long in its entire gestation to the end of that play. I worked for Clarence for a long time, for I'd say over a year and a half, doing many other projects.
Well, why did you work for him for nothing, sir?
Well, I didn't. He paid me twice out of the amount I gave him. I have some invoices I'd given him also. And both times that he paid me, he paid one time I came to him and told him I wanted some money. He said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll pay an electric bill for you. How's that? So he paid the electric bill. The check bounced, of course. And then he did another payment with another fraudulent check that bounced.
I knew.
Just a
he
second.
really hasn't paid
So
me.
the answer is, all this year and a half, he didn't pay you.
Well, that's the Hollywood side of it. He is also my agent. So as my agent, he constantly would tell me, well, Roy, as soon as these deals break, I'll have the money for you. He's a very smooth talker. It's what he
Just a
does.
second. So you were working for him, but he was also your agent and supposedly working for you.
Yes.
He needed money because Clarence never got him any work as a writer. So Clarence said, well, work for me as well while we're trying to get all this done.
Plus, I had a full-time job all this time.
How do
This
you
was just
expect?
additional
Are you
work.
a writer, sir?
No, I'm not a writer.
Well, what do you do?
I managed some writers, and I arranged funds for various film projects. And I was
When did you give him this computer to keep for you?
It was in March or April or something like that. I don't remember. But I know that what had happened, as I said, the apartment flooded. We had to leave the apartment until they fixed it. And I didn't want to put it in storage. He was working on the play. So therefore, I was trying to be a decent person and just let him keep it. But he said that John owed him money, and that I owed him money. He has never given me any invoices. I've not ever paid. He wasn't working for me. He had a full-time job. How could he work for me?
He has copies of
I
the
work
invoices.
all day.
Clarence, I worked for you weekends and after work all the time. I was at your house burning the midnight oil.
This accordion file on the floor is a partial bit of the work Roy's done for him.
Who are you? Just a second. Who are you?
I'm his sister. And we
what
live
do you have?
together.
Are you in business?
He's suing
He's suing me for slander.
That's the one
No,
who
just a second.
slandered.
You're his sister. Are you in business with him?
I help him out occasionally, but I'm not technically in business with him, no.
This is getting very complicated. How much time do I have this afternoon?
Not much.
Do you, you're Mr. Olden?
Olden Camp, yes, ma'am.
Olden Camp. You have a lot of businesses?
I work full-time job in the daytime. And then
What do
I
you
help
do?
them out. In the daytime, I work administrative services at a company in the Valley. That means we help do supply and for an entire building of 200 people.
And you live alone, sir?
I live with Joselle.
We're roommates.
Right.
Fine. Do you have your own computer?
I have my own laptop computer, yes.
Fine. Give him back his computer. That's one. Give him back his computer. That's the way he makes a living. You don't have another computer, do you?
No, I don't.
His laptop is
just a
mine as well.
What?
We both use the laptop.
Good. You can only use it one lap at a time. His computer goes back to him. Now, what's next?
The next is that Joselle.
That's her.
That's her. Call Sloan, who I was working with, who's a business associate, and she will testify. And on the message, Sloan had said, Clarence, you have to listen to this message. I said, I really don't want to listen to it. It wasn't interesting, so she had to finally talk me into listening to it. And I quote exactly to you what Joselle said. It's the most heinous of things that you could ever accuse a human being of. She said, and I'll give you a copy of it, I just want to warn you about Clarence. He had the police come here about 1 o'clock this morning, which is true. I don't know what's wrong with him. He has turned his anger at me and Roy for some reason. You know he was arrested for child molestation last month. He has just lost it. I just want to tell you to watch out for him. Let's have lunch.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I am not in fear of this man.
Why are you not in fear of this drunken guy who gets on the pipe? This guy is dangerous.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Clarence Cheatham, a Hollywood agent, says his former client, Roy Oldenkamp, did not return his computer, and that Roy's sister, Joselle Celine, slandered him.
Did you leave that message on the machine?
Yes, I did.
Would you tell me first why, and then I'd like you to tell me what proof you have that Mr. Cheatham was in fact arrested on a charge of child molestation?
I called and left that message because Sloan, in addition to being a client of Clarence's, is a friend of mine. She's been to my house, we're friends, and I look out for my girlfriends. I'm afraid of this man now, and I wanted her
Joselle,
I'm
sorry. What now? That answers the why.
Right.
Now let's go to the proof. What proof do you have
Clarence
that this man was in fact arrested for anything?
Okay. Clarence called my brother at my home.
This brother?
Yes, he called us to
She
bail
was
him
at
out
the
of jail
house at
that
the same
night.
time when he called.
This is my witness who was also there. They were home working. So Roy put it on speakerphone so he could continue working while Clarence was blethering away. And this is the witness that also heard the conversation of Clarence saying, can you bail me out? I've been picked up on child molestation charges.
Tell me your name, sir.
My name is James Shefflin.
James?
James Shefflin.
Mr. Shefflin.
Yes.
What do you do for a living, sir?
Okay, I manage a rock and roll band, and Roy is stepping up as my publicist. And we do a lot of late evenings. And,
so you were at home in the evening.
I was at his home.
Their home.
Right.
And what happened?
And he got a phone call, and Roy always puts the call on speakerphone.
You mean he picks it up on speakerphone?
I just push speaker.
Push.
You push speakerphone.
So he doesn't have to stop what he's
And
saying.
what did you hear, sir?
I heard that he was calling and asking for help to get out of jail. he said, I need help getting out here. Is there any way you can possibly get me out?
Okay. Mr. Cheatham.
Yes.
Were you, in fact, arrested?
Not for child molestation.
That's not what I asked you, sir.
I'll tell you what
Listen to me.
Was I
I'm
arrested?
asking you a question.
Was
Were
I
you, in
arrested?
fact, arrested?
Yes, nobody bailed me out.
Mr. Cheatham, you were, in fact, arrested?
Yes.
When?
I have April or February or March, something like that. I don't even remember.
Did you, in fact, call Mr. Oldenkamp?
I didn't. Perhaps John called him. I don't remember calling him.
But you could have.
But I could have.
And you could have called him and asked him to come and bail you out.
You don't bail out child molesters.
Oh, you'd be surprised, sir. You'd be surprised. Did you call and ask them to help you?
No. John is my witness to that. No one. I asked no one because I didn't want anyone to even know that I was there. I was arrested on a $250 charge for disorderly conduct, and hey, you spend one night in jail and you're out.
Just let me ask you this question, sir. Was the original charge disorderly conduct?
That was the original charge.
No, the original charge was child molestation.
Just a second.
Who did
Tell
I
me,
molest?
Mr.
A Hollywood producer's daughter.
Shh, Mr. Oldenkamp.
A 25-year-old
Mr.
woman.
Hey. Shh. Tell me the circumstances surrounding your arrest, sir.
The circumstances surrounding my arrest, I went to help a friend move. She said her car wouldn't start. I was standing there to call AAA. The next thing I know, all these white policemen were up on me. There were 10 of them. Because somebody had called and said that we were about to rob, John and I were about to rob them. So, they've called a cab, put us in a cab, and then this cab driver said, well, you guys have probably taken us somewhere to rob me. I just laughed, you know. So and he drove us back, left us at the garage, and as soon as I walked out, they didn't touch John. They arrested me for disturbing the peace, disorderly conduct. I have no idea. I was there for one night. It was a $250 fine that every man in that jailhouse laughed at me. You can't get $250. Every man, I'm in there with dope dealers, pushers, murderers, and everything. And here it is that they're laughing at me. I was the butt of their joke because I couldn't come up with $250 to get out of jail. It was a $250 fine. You will not, you know, so therefore, never for child molestation. A 25-year-old, you don't molest. You don't molest
What's
a 25-year-old?
I don't know who the 25-year-old is.
He said a Hollywood producer's daughter. Yeah, that's what he said. He said
Clarence
it was a Hollywood
when
producer's
Clarence told
daughter.
me on the phone.
25 years old.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What happens? This is the payback that I get. I mean, I hope his bad karma is ending here. I hope people in Hollywood will be warned.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Hollywood agent Clarence Cheatham is suing Joselle Salim for slander.
The true text of the conversation as he called us was that, Roy, I'm in jail, I've been arrested. I think he said Van Nuys Police Department. He says, you won't believe it, I was arrested for child molestation. I was drunk, I was at a producer's house. I accidentally grabbed her daughter. Of course, he'd say accidentally. She had a cell phone in her hand, ran in the bathroom, locked the door, and called 911. They came and arrested me and took me out of the building. This, I'm just.
Why don't you ask
This
John?
is what the phone conversation was.
Why don't you ask John?
First of all, Mr. Cheatham, how many times have you been arrested in your life?
One. I was shocked. I was shocked to be arrested that time.
Who are you?
My name is John Taylor. We sit together, and I mean the whole child molesting thing is not.
Well, just a minute. Were you there when he made the phone call to the defendant?
No.
Okay, then you can sit down.
But he was there when I was arrested. He knows why I was arrested.
Just a second.
Did I call Roy? That's the issue here.
You don't know whether he called him or not.
I couldn't call anybody out of the courthouse because I didn't know how to use the phone.
Mr. Cheatham, I want to tell you something. I believe, sir, that you called him. There's no question in my mind that I believe that you called him.
I called him.
I did not call Roy. I don't remember calling him. Perhaps John.
No, you don't. You may not remember calling him, but he knows your voice, sir, as opposed to this gentleman's voice.
Well, I don't think he's telling the truth. They're pulling at straws. They're pulling at straws. Giselle lied and said I was a child molester. That's the issue here, that she slandered me to a business colleague of mine. That is what we have. That's what we have. Has nothing to do with that.
Oh,
this is a
friendship, I
business
think so.
client of mine, and you know it.
Just a second. Well, let me ask you this question, madam. Did you believe the fact that he was a child molester?
No, I did not.
Good. Then we don't have a problem.
There you go.
Because in order for you to prove damages, sir, if she published this
She's no
information...
longer working with me.
Listen to me.
She's no longer working with me as a client, so therefore I've lost income.
No, listen.
Okay.
Mr. Cheatham.
Judy, can I just say something?
Mr. Cheatham. There are two things. I have to make a judgment as to whether the phone call was made and whether I believe the phone call was made. I believe the phone call was made. I believe the phone call was made by you, Mr. Cheatham. I don't know whether you were drinking that night or not. This is the person with whom you reside. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. So I believe the phone call was made. I believe this person, that he overheard that phone conversation, at least part of it. I don't know why, madam, you felt it necessary to transmit that information to anybody else. There must have been some bad blood, but clearly you didn't believe it, correct?
No, we're not
Did you
friends.
believe?
She did that to malign him because I'm his client.
Did you believe that it was true?
No, I did not.
Did you believe that he had been arrested?
Apparently not. That I had no question. I don't know. That's possible.
That's
but
possible.
as far as him being a child molester, no.
Okay, so you didn't believe it?
No.
Okay, so did you tell anybody else that he was a child molester?
No.
Or that you thought he was arrested for child molestation?
Absolutely.
Did you tell anybody else that?
No.
Okay, so she didn't believe it, so that takes care of that. All right, now I'm going to get to your counterclaim.
I've not been served with such.
You were never served with a counterclaim?
I was never served with
You were served by
a...
Dan West 2 weeks ago.
I have not ever been served with a cross-complaint. Why would I stand here and lie about that?
Well, I don't know, Clarence. That sums up the
Where
last
would he
half
have
hour.
served me 2 weeks ago?
He served you 2 weeks ago at your abode, wherever
Your
you
Honor,
live.
Well, let me...
I do
just
not
one
have
second.
a counterclaim
Just one
against
second.
me.
I'm
I
gonna
cannot
check
be sued for something that
Listen
I
to
don't
me.
know about.
Listen to me. I'm going to go back and check our court records and see whether or not we are in receipt of a filed counterclaim with proof of service.
Perhaps
Do you understand?
are, but I'm not. And perhaps you are, I'm not. I don't know anything about a counter-complaint because I certainly would have answered it.
Well, Mr. Cheatham, you can either finish this case in court today.
I want to finish it today.
Then you want to let me see what this
Sure.
cross-complaint is about?
Sure.
Okay. Let me see if I have the papers. Just wait here.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He's a nut. I can't believe that he started this whole ball rolling in the first place. The man is simply a nut.
Order. Quiet, please.
Mr. Roldenkamp,
Yes, ma'am.
the plaintiff could not have been served 2 weeks ago with your counterclaim,
What?
sir, because you only filed your counterclaim 5 days ago.
It was...
So you can't have been served, sir, with your counterclaim before you filed it. Your countersuit is dismissed without prejudice. You can refile it if you wish and serve him.
that's fine.
And within 48 hours, the computer is to be returned to him.
I don't want him near me to pick up that computer. Can
Fine,
I have someone pick it up?
We will make arrangements for the computer to be picked up.
Thank you. I fear for my safety with him.
You certainly should. We're done.
Step out the back to your right.
Shame on you,
please.
Sloan.
Out the back to your right, please.
On the next Judge Judy.
Why are you not in fear of this drunken guy who gets on the pipe? This guy is dangerous. You need to stay away from him.
That is defamation of character.
It's reality, darling. It's reality. All that I did for you. This is your payback.
That's who you
That's
should
your
be ashamed of,
payback?
because you're standing there lying and you're implicating
Your
me in
karma,
this.
your karma is
And I
just
don't
in
have
the
anything
doghouse.
to do with it. All I
Karma
did
is
was
about
repeat
money.
what you-
So, once again, what can I say? I was a fool, but I just hope others will learn and be warned that there are types like this that prey on people that come to Hollywood, plan on making a career out here, and then get suckered in, abused, and used. It's a terrible thing.
Your Honor, this is case number 425 on the calendar in the matter of Cunningham versus Curley. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have
All
seats,
right,
please.
there look like a lot of people here, so let me see, based upon these papers that I have, whether I can figure out the cast that I have before me. You must be Mr. and Mrs. Cunningham.
Yes.
And these are your two sons.
Yes. Correct.
And they have a white blazer.
Chris does, yes.
That's you. And you, sir, are Mr. Curley.
Yes, ma'am.
And you and your family,
Yes, ma'am.
live in a nice, quiet neighborhood, nice, quiet cul-de-sac in that neighborhood, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you say that there is this white Blazer that speeds into your cul-de-sac, driving erratically.
Consecutively. I have a statement from...
Is that right so far?
Yes, ma'am.
You allege, I assume you weren't there.
Right.
Chris was there.
Yes.
Little brother was there.
Yes.
That this gentleman assaulted the younger of your children.
Yes.
You weren't there.
No.
Correct?
Correct.
So why don't you exchange places with your children?
Thank you.
Who was doing the driving?
I was.
And when did this happen?
This summer sometime. I don't remember the date.
February.
It was February 23rd. Okay.
Well, that's close to the summer, February
Yeah.
23rd.
Hi.
Why don't you tell me what happened on this summer day in February?
Well, my friend had been sick for a while, and I was going down to see him. And we got there, and he wasn't there. So me and my brother were going back home down the road, and Mr. Curley over here came walking down his driveway pointing at my truck. So I came to a stop, and he started yelling at me, cussing at me, challenged me to fight. Told him I didn't want to fight him, you know, just leave me alone. He got in front of my truck, wouldn't let me leave, so I got out. We argued some more. He wanted to fight. I didn't want to fight. I told him to grow up. I put my hands up like this, walked back over to my truck, got in. He walked over to the passenger side, continued to challenge me, want to fight me, call me names, curse at me. I started to drive away, and as I pulled off, I heard a loud thud noise. And I looked to my right, and my brother was bent over holding his face, and I said, "Did he hit you?" And he said, "Yes." So I got out, I walked up to him, and I was angry at this point, and I yelled at him, and I said, "Did you hit my brother?" And he said, "Yes, I hit your effing little brother." And at this point, he pushed me, and then a neighbor intervened and grabbed me and took me back to my truck, and then I left.
Now you tell me what happened.
Just like my brother said, we were
could you look over here, please?
Just like my brother said, we were driving to his friend's house. We realized he wasn't there, so we were driving back home, and we noticed that Curly was pointing at my brother's truck, and my brother stopped because he figured there was a problem with his truck or something. And Curly came up to the passenger window, cursing at my brother, saying that he was going to rip his head off. Then he came to the front of the truck, and my brother got out of the truck, and they were arguing some more. And my brother, like he said, just told him to grow up, and got back in the truck. And he came back to the passenger window, started cussing some more. I said nothing to him. I didn't even look at him. He just hit me, blindsided me. I didn't even expect it at all.
And you were injured.
How was I injured?
And you were injured.
Oh, yes, I was injured.
Tell me about your injury.
He hit me so hard that my head was snapped back, and I couldn't play basketball for a week. We had a tournament that week, and I could not play. I could not do PE for a week because of my neck injuries. I had a mark on my nose, and my cheek was swelled. I missed a day of school to get x-rays on my neck, and that's about it.
And I assume, Mrs. Cunningham, that in your folder you have the medical reports?
Yes.
Okay. I would like you to turn them over to my bailiff, please. All right, Mr. Curley. Now I'm going to hear your version of these events, sir.
Okay. Pretty much everything he said was true up to the point where the confrontation started and he was saying grow up. We've had excessive speed up and down this street. besides him, all of his friends, but he was the main
Don't tell
one.
me his friends.
Okay, well,
Just
he
tell
was
me
the
him.
main problem. He's got a boombox in his system. He was in his car, which is fine. But constantly, the windows are up, blasting music up and down, speeding up and down the streets. My son and all his friends ride up and down the street on their bikes and stuff. The reason I had gotten so tired of it is because he had come around the corner one time and almost hit my son and his friend out there on the street because he just excessive speed coming around the corner. It's a cul-de-sac. It's a small street. Police have been notified several times. Excuse me, several times. But because it's a misdemeanor, they said that the only way they could do anything is if it was happened in their presence. The only thing they could do.
Just a second. Would you tell him to take his hands out?
Yes, Judge. Remove your hands from your pockets, please.
Well, the day that this all happened, he came flying up the street just like usual. My dad and everybody had told him to slow down. So all it is, with the gestures toward the adults around there, is flipping him off as he drives by. And I have statements in here proving.
So tell me what you did. He came flying around the corner, and what happened?
I came outside, and I did. I stopped him. I stopped the vehicle. I told him, slow it down. I said, there's kids in here. I said, all it takes is just a little bit of not paying attention, and you kill one of these kids, and then you're going to seriously pay the consequences. I did say that. Now, whether that was taken as a threat or not, that's fine. But when it comes down to my child being in danger,
It's not a threat.
Then that's the way it's going to happen.
It's not a threat. So far, you were very reserved. What happened next?
We got into a verbal confrontation. He steps out of his car. He said a few expletives. Get back in the house, old man. Because I hadn't shaven in a while. I was all scraggly. I was relaxing. I didn't, it was a verbal confrontation.
Okay.
I didn't, I didn't pull any punches.
You were mad.
I was verbal on my own because I was tired of having to worry about my son going outside, having him stay up on the sidewalk or up in our driveway because of these kids flying up and down the street.
Now tell me about hitting the car, sir.
I struck the car. As he drove off, I hit the side of the car.
Which side of the car, sir?
The passenger side. I struck the passenger side as they drove off.
But according to you, while you struck the passenger side of the car, you didn't strike him.
No, I didn't touch him.
Mm-hmm.
That would make me impossible losing my license.
Well, so striking the car.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The only difference is with a gun, you can usually only kill one person if you make a mistake, right? With a car, you can plow down 4 of his friends.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 17-year-old Christopher Cunningham and his brother, 14-year-old Stephen, say Scott Curley assaulted Stephen. Scott says he wants them to stop speeding through his neighborhood.
Who else has witnessed this white Blazer driving up and down?
I'll have.
Let's start with you.
Well,
Come on up here. Tell me your name.
Corey. Curly.
Corey, how old are you?
9.
You know what it means to tell the truth?
Don't lie.
Do you know why it's more important to tell the truth in court than anywhere else?
Yeah, because you can go to jail for lying.
I think you're a pretty smart kid. So why don't you tell me what happened with this white Blazer?
Well, Big Chris, when he was coming up and down the street, and when I got home, which my grandma let me go out and play with my friend Cody so we can play a little game of baseball with a little, like a McDonald's ball that they have at McDonald's. Well, we went out there and played some baseball, and then Big Chris came around the corner.
That's this young man here? That's Big Chris? Shh, shh. Big Chris is on the license plate of the car?
Yes.
So Big Chris came around the corner.
Yeah. And when he came around the corner, I told Cody to watch out because he was hit. It was his turn to hit. Now it's pitching. And there were some other kids, and we didn't hear them say, watch out. And they were all, so we didn't know. But I said, Cody, watch out. And he just came around the corner.
Well, was he coming around the corner fast or slowly?
Well, he came around the corner fast, and he started to speed up a little bit.
How many times have you seen this car on your street?
I've seen it bunches of times.
You have a boyfriend or a girlfriend on that street?
It's one of my best friends. It's a guy, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Have you been asked to slow down before on that street?
I never was confronted by anybody.
You have not?
I have not ever been confronted by anybody. The
No?
first time I was confronted is when he hit my little brother.
So you're telling me, Big Chris, that there's nothing wrong with the way you drive down that street?
No, I'm not saying that at all.
Well, then what are you saying? I'd like to hear how you drive down these people's street.
Yeah, I may have sped a little bit, yeah. I could have.
Uh-huh. And when you're speeding down this street, you're also blasting your boombox?
I don't know about blasting it, but I have my stereo on, yeah.
Loud?
Pretty loud.
Uh-huh.
Not anymore, though.
How old are you?
17.
How long have you been driving?
A year.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever dock him from driving his car?
His driving, any problems whatsoever with his driving was never brought to my attention.
I know, okay.
So I had no way of knowing there was a problem on this street until my son was attacked that day.
Miss Cunningham, you can understand the frustration because you don't have to be a genius to figure out what's going on here. You don't have to be a genius to figure that out.
Right, I've driven down the street myself.
Okay. So you can understand why the people who live on that street have become frustrated with not only your son, but with other people. They have not been able to enjoy their property and let their children play out safely on their property because your 17-year-old son is acting like a moron. Right?
Well, I think he was acting like a normal 16-year-old driver. And I think the person who was not acting like a normal person was Mr. Curley. I have a police report with a witness statement.
You have a what?
A police report from the day of the incident.
Well, I'll see a police report, but I don't take witnesses' statements unless the witnesses are here.
The witness statement is in the police report.
And I'm not interested in it. I'm prepared to hear witnesses here. And Mr. Curley, I'm prepared to tell you that after I examine these hospital records, I probably am prepared to tell you, sir, that when you went to hit the truck, your hand probably slipped.
It hit the back of the truck, ma'am. That's what the High Patrol was told too. I would like to say that every person on our block, except for one family, signed this, stating the fact that he has been driving recklessly, dangerously around the children. This is every family on the block.
Did you send it to the parents?
Yes, it was.
A month after the incident.
A month after.
1 month
So
after.
are you telling me? Are you telling me, sir, that after this incident, that it continued?
Yes.
No.
Are you telling me that after this incident it continued?
Yes. I've got the statement right here.
No, I can't. I'm not going to see a statement. I'm going to listen to your son.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I think it was kind of unfair to be called an idiot just because I made a mistake and I realized that, and I have calmed down a lot since that incident.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. The Cunninghams are suing Scott Curley for assaulting their 14-year-old son, Stephen.
After this incident, did you see Big Chris back on the block? Well, you don't remember. You can tell me I don't remember.
I don't remember.
Okay. Can I just want to take a look at the police report for the date, please. So would you get that from her?
I also have a criminal case docket record stating that he was arrested for this, spent 2 days in jail. He's on probation for 3 years.
No, ma'am.
Ordered to stay away from my son.
Let me say it.
I served no time in jail.
Well, that's what this report
Curley,
says.
just want to read it.
Also, he mentioned that this happened when his son came home from school. It was a Sunday that it happened.
Sir, you pled guilty, is that correct, on this
Yes,
assault charge?
no contest, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
I didn't have time to go through the court.
Well, Mr. Curley, plea of no contest is plea of guilty. Your attorney, I'm sure, explained that to you. It's no different from if you were tried and found guilty by a jury. Do you understand that?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
And that was explained to you. Now, I do have a problem, however, Mrs. Cunningham, with something that you said to me. I don't think that you can excuse a 16 or 17-year-old who's driving recklessly by saying he's just behaving like a normal teenager. That's outrageous.
No,
that suggests to me, madam, that all of our little children out there who are playing peacefully in their homes and their streets, well, they have to watch out for these normal teenagers who are acting like fools behind the wheel of a big sport truck.
The instant I found out about the problem, we resolved that problem.
How did you resolve it?
I taught him in his driver's training when I drove with him that he should be doing nothing but rolling down a residential area, ready to brake.
Well, I'll tell you what I would have done with him if he was my child.
I told him that he should not be blasting his stereo, turning it up loudly in any way that annoys our neighbors.
You're absolutely right. That's a good thing to tell him.
That's how I resolved the
That's a good thing to tell him.
When it was brought to my attention.
Let me tell you something. If he were my child, he wouldn't drive a car again till he was 18 years old.
The police were called and we
No, listen
spoke
to
with
me.
them.
I don't care whether the police were called. You know, what you're saying to me is, I told him that if he was going to have a gun, that he had to make sure that he kept it secure at all times, that he kept the safety lock on it at all times, because it could be very dangerous if it were not handled properly. And then you turn this gun over to a 16-year-old idiot, right? That's what a car is. It's no different from a gun. The only difference is with a gun, you can usually only kill one person if you make a mistake, right? With a car, you can plow down 4 of his friends, right?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What were your out-of-pocket medical expenses?
$10.
Mm-hmm. Now, Mr. Curley.
Yes, ma'am.
Pled guilty to this assault. This young man was injured. That's not something that you can do, sir. You were frustrated, you were angry, but you cannot, under any circumstances, behave in this kind of a fashion. That's, first of all, it's a very poor thing for your children to witness.
Oh, I totally agree.
Okay. So you're going to have to pay the price for that. Now, the Cunninghams are suing for about... How old are you, by the way?
14.
You don't drive, do you?
No.
See, the problem is, if you were going to take a punch, Mr. Curley, you hit the wrong one. Because he wasn't doing anything.
I agree. That's why he didn't get hit.
Okay. He wasn't doing anything. He was a passenger. He may have been a foolish passenger, but he was a passenger. He's suing for $5,000. And I'm going to give you $2,500 plus $10 for your medical costs. You suffered injury because of 2 people. Because of Mr. Curley and because of your dumb brother. You got it?
Yes.
Good. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Paperwork, ma'am.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
I think it was kind of unfair to be called an idiot just because I made a mistake, and I realized that, and I have calmed down a lot since that incident.
I was upset. My initial reaction was to charge down there and do the same thing he did to my children, punch them in the face.
Along with many other family members.
But I do have a responsibility to show my children the proper way to handle situations.
As follows. You, sir, are the plaintiff.
Yes, ma'am.
This is your son.
Yes.
Grandson?
Yes.
How old are you?
15.
Is this the grandson in question?
Yes, ma'am.
You are suing your son for support, retroactive support, for a time when your grandson came to live with you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Why don't you tell me why he came to live with you?
Well, my son and his wife, ex-wife, called my wife and I and told us that they couldn't control Richard anymore and that he was becoming a street person, and he was on drugs and did not going to school. And they decided to get rid of him. They were going to throw him into court, I guess the ward of California till he was 18. They put him in a mental institution in Bellflower, California, and that's where we picked him up at. And my son and daughter-in-law, or ex-daughter-in-law, promised us that they were going to help us to support Richard. And we knew he had a history of drugs. And
When did you have this conversation about support?
this was about 1st of June or so, because we picked up Richard on the 12th.
Of June?
Right.
Well, tell me what the conversation was about support.
Well, that they would both give us $100 a month to help us take care of Richard. I told my son that I couldn't afford to solely pay it, so that's that I needed his help to help me with Richard, and he agreed, and so did Brenda, or Michelle, as she's well known now. And we went before a notary and we signed papers to that effect. I cannot find my copies. All my files are missing, and I don't know why.
You mean copies of papers that say he would pay you $100 a month?
Yes.
And you're telling me that that was in writing?
Yes.
Is that true, sir?
No, it wasn't.
So what happened with Richard when he came to your home?
Well, we tried to get him into school because he'd been out of school for over, I guess, 6 months to 7 months. He was flunked in the 7th grade. So I called the governor of Utah and asked them if they could help me to get Richard into some kind of a tutoring program. And I guess through him calling the school in our area and everything, I finally got him a tutor to help him through the summer to get ready for the 8th grade.
How long did he live with you?
Altogether, 11 months. I had him up until December 25th.
What happened in December?
Yeah, we met his father and his father's new wife in Caesar's Palace, I believe it was. And we let Richard reacquaint with his father, and we tried to talk to his father into taking him home with him for a week or two. And he did. And then about a week after he had him, or 3 days or 4 days, something like that, he called me back and said, I'm deciding to keep Richard.
And how long did he keep him for?
Well, he called me back in it's either January or February and told me he couldn't keep Richard in the house. He kept running away. He was starting to ditch school again, if he was in school. I don't think his father put him in school for at least a month or so. And then about a month after that, he called me again and said Richard was a runaway again. He took off in his underwear or his pajamas, I don't know which. And his father was looking for him, but it took him a week to find him.
And then he came back to live with you?
No, then he went to court, and he was being charged for 2 burglaries and a few other things. My son didn't want him anymore, so he had petitioned the court to make Richard a ward of the court until he was 18. They called me and asked me if I could take Richard back to Utah to save him from being a ward of the state of California.
And you did?
I did.
And how long did you keep him at that point?
I had him until October, I believe. My son snuck up and stole him from us.
What do you mean he snuck up and stole him?
He came up while my wife and I were at where she works, and then I get a call from my daughter saying that Rick had just come up there with a sheriff and took Richard with him. And then after that happened, we found a lot of papers missing, our files, a few other things, so I don't know if they prepared this prior to him coming up or what.
Okay, sir.
When Richard went to the hospital, his mother put him in there because Richard was living with his mother at the time. Brenda, Michelle, she came and told me that she put him in the hospital, and I said, well, ask Richard if he wants to come live with me. He said no. So Michelle said, well, how about if he can go with his grandfather? Well, Fred said, yeah, I'll take him. So Richard says, well, I'll go with him. So he went with him because Michelle was going to put him into a placement home.
When did you change your name from Brenda to Michelle?
About 5 years ago.
See, when I was married to her, she was Brenda. So I'm used to Brenda, you know, calling her Brenda. So my Fred took him to Utah with him. And he asked me, well, Rick, are you going to help me? And I said, well, if I have some money, I will send you some money. He says, okay. So he went up to Utah, and I was getting calls from Fred that he was in trouble, sniffing gas and all this stuff. We met in Las Vegas in December, and Fred said, take Richard with you. I want him to get to know you again and all that. I said, okay. So Richard was with me, and he was getting in some trouble with the law and stuff like that. So we went to court, and the court was going to put him into a placement. So Richard says, well, I'll go back to Grandpa's in Utah. So I called him up, and I asked him, I said, Fred, Richard would like to come back to Utah. And he says, okay, I'll take him back. He came down and picked him up, took him up there, and he was having problems with Richard. Richard was sneaking cigarettes, and he asked for the cigarettes back, and Richard said no, so he punched him out, gave him a black eye. And so I called up there, and I asked, how's everything with Richard? And he said, well, I just punched him out because he wouldn't give me the cigarettes. Then he mouthed off, and I hit him again. I said, you know, that's not right. Why are you doing that? Well, I'm tired of it. Excuse my French. I'm tired of it. And I said, well, try to understand him, you know. Then I called up again. Then he's over medicating him with Zoloft, 150 milligrams a day. And I said, why are you doing that? He says, well, I'm trying to keep him calmed down. And I talked to my girlfriend, my wife, and I said, well, you know what? Let's go up to Utah and pick him up. He's getting abused.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Stupid isn't written here, sir. They do not send you to NA meetings because you're on Zoloft. Don't say dumb things, especially to me.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 57-year-old machinist Fred Denault says his son, 40-year-old Rick Denault, owes him for caring for Rick's son, his grandson, 15-year-old Richard.
Well, just a second. Let's step back a minute. The judge in the court in California permitted your son, instead of going to a juvenile facility, to go to live with your father. Is that correct?
Yes.
He was released to your father's custody, not to yours. Is that right?
Yes.
So you had no right to go and pick him up because he was, in fact, released to your father's custody. Right?
Right.
See, I didn't even read those papers, and I know that. Bird knows that, too, because we've been around the block. Mm-hmm.
Except, didn't the court said they allowed him to go up there? Isn't that a different phrase? Allowed?
Let me tell you what they did in the state of California. They saved themselves probably $100,000 by not putting him in a facility here at taxpayers' expense. They said, we're going to make it Utah's problem. We'll send him to Utah to live with his grandfather. Let me first discuss with you, sir, your countersuit. I'd like to get that resolved first, which is you're suing for mental anguish for your son. You want $2,000. You don't get a penny. Nothing.
Okay.
Your 15-year-old problem, you visited on your father and mother. They had their own problems. I assume you weren't a piece of cake to raise. You have other children, sir?
Yes.
How many other children?
We have 3 others.
They raised their children. You were having a problem with your child. So let me tell you what you did. You were having a problem, you and Brenda, Michelle, Sonia, whatever her name is. You were having a problem with your child. You couldn't deal with it. So you call your father. Help me out, take him. Then you take him back. While he's in your care, goes out and he commits a couple of burglaries. Now the courts are going to take him. The courts have evidently decided that you are not fit to take care of him, and your former wife, Michelle, Brenda, Sonia, is not prepared to take care of him. So they call your father with your permission. And he takes him. And he can't control him. Neither could you. So where you get this countersuit from. You've been reading too many fiction books. But let's get to your lawsuit. How much money did you send to your father in the almost year that your son lived there?
$100. Gift certificate for Sears, for JCPenney's.
How many children do you have?
How many do I have?
That was
I
my
have
question.
one.
This one?
Yes.
No, he has 3 others that he don't bother to claim or support.
Just a second. How many children do you have?
I have one.
You don't have 3 others? What is it? You don't
well,
have 3
I have another child, except she got remarried and she had the child adopted from her new husband.
So that accounts for 1. And what about 2 more?
2 more?
2 more. You have 2 more?
No.
That you don't, I'm not talking about that you see, that you don't see, that you support, that you don't support, that you have.
I have 3. Well.
So I assume that since you say you only have 1 child, that I don't even have to ask the question whether you don't support the other 3 children. What kind of work do you do?
I work for a company called West Sanitation, put air fresheners in restrooms.
Okay, and how long have you been working for them?
6 years.
How old are you, sir?
40 years old.
You know, there comes a time when you have to stop visiting your problems on your parents. You've got a lot of other problems. Meanwhile, the one major problem that you have was a 15-year-old child. You asked your parents to take some responsibility for him, and then you had some financial problems, and in a whole year you sent him $100. You know, you can't feed a goldfish on $100.
Well,
he says something rather interesting, sir, in his answer, which I'm sort of curious about. Did you apply for welfare for him when he was living with you?
Yes, I did.
And how much did you collect for welfare while he was living with you?
Esther, remember?
2, excuse me.
I think it was 2 payments of $250. That was towards the end of '96.
Yeah, I only got 2 up to, they helped me out with 2 months.
2 months, and how much did you receive for those 2 months?
It was a total of $500, because it was $240 a month, so it was quarter $480.
Yeah, because Richard had a $1,200 hospital bill when he was sniffing gas.
Okay, but they paid that.
Right, that's how we had to go for this.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
If he cared, he wouldn't be doing what he did to him up there in Utah. Beating him up, you know, giving him too much medication.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Fred Deneau wants his son, Rick, to pay him back for caring for his son, Richard.
I have a sense that you haven't seen the last of this responsibility. But right now, it's your son's responsibility. You have a lawsuit before me, and I try to keep things simple. You know, the old KISS principle, keep it simple. Your agreement was for $1,100. You got $480. I am not giving you credit, sir, for the $100 gift certificate that you sent to your son for clothes. It's ridiculous. So I'm awarding you $620. What do you want to say?
He was not with him for 11 months. He was just with him for 9 months. 6 months in 1996 from June to December. Then I brought him back. Then he went back on 5/27 of 97. Then I brought him back 3 months after that.
Is that about right, sir?
Was it 527? I'm sorry, I'll stand corrected. It was 527.
Okay. So then we have to reduce this award by $200, making the award $420.
Can I say?
Is your son currently under medical care, sir?
No, he isn't.
Why not?
He is. He doesn't need it. He is improved.
Is he in school?
He was going to a non-public school. Yesterday we had an IUP meeting. He is now going to a public school now. I have letters stating.
So he's doing okay?
Oh, he's doing 100% better. 100% better.
Well, that's very good.
He's an A and B student.
Good.
I have his report card.
You doing better?
Yes.
And he's going to NA to get off because when he was with my father, he was on that Zoloft for so long. So the courts wanted him to go to NA to get off of it, you know, from the withdrawals and stuff off the Zoloft.
What? Stupid isn't written here, sir. They do not send you to NA meetings because you're on Zoloft.
That's what the
No. They send you to NA meetings, sir, if you're on illegal drugs, not if you're on prescription medication that you're taking. They don't send you to NA meetings.
Well,
what do you, I mean, I'm not
well,
stupid.
I know that, so I'm just saying that when I brought him back from Utah, we went to court, and this is what the judge put him.
The judge may have put him there, but not because he was taking Zoloft. Maybe because he was taking a little crack, maybe because he was taking a little cocaine, maybe because he was smoking a little dust. For all those other things, maybe he went to NA meetings. Does that sound right to you?
Maybe he was doing that in Utah.
Does that sound right to you?
I don't know about
No,
with
I
me.
don't know.
Maybe it was with him because I brought him.
Hey. When you sent him to your father the first time, you sent him there because he was doing drugs, right?
Right. Mother and I.
Yep. Mother.
Mother.
What kind of drugs was he doing?
I don't know. He was living with his mother.
Well, you should know you're his father.
Because they went.
You should know you're his father.
And he lived across the street from his son.
How could he figure that?
Sir, you should know. And they don't send someone to NA meetings because they're taking prescription drugs. Don't say dumb things, especially to me. But I'm pleased to see that you're doing better. Right?
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Seems to me that if it was recently that you spent some time with your grandfather and grandmother, even though you may not think so now, it may have been a good break for you, because if it wasn't for them, you would have been in juvenile hall, right?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
And that wouldn't have been a very good thing.
No.
You wouldn't have liked that, right?
No.
So they really saved you from going to jail.
I went.
What?
I went.
You went to jail. They saved you from spending more time in jail.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Did you thank them?
Yes.
Do you write to them?
No.
Do you think you should?
They told me and my father they didn't want nothing to do with us.
I think your grandparents probably would like to hear from you, even if it's just an occasional note. You think you can do that?
Yes.
Good. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
He doesn't care for Richard, his grandson. You don't care. If he cared, he wouldn't be doing what he did to him up there in Utah. Beating him up, you know, giving him too much medication.
He's very important. I love him. I wish he was still at our house.
I'm trying to get my son to take care of his son.
I am take care of him.
And he hasn't done it ever since the kid was 3 years old. He pays $50 a month child support, which is really a lot of money.
A world transformed technology's embrace. Technology is everywhere, seamlessly integrated into our daily lives. It shapes how we live, work, and play, influencing every aspect of our existence. From smartphones to the internet, technology has revolutionized our world, making information and communication more accessible than ever. We are constantly connected, informed, and entertained, no matter where we are. Think about your daily routine and how technology is woven into it. You likely use technology from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, making it an integral part of your day. Your alarm clock might be on your phone, waking you up with a familiar tone. You might check social media or the news while you drink your coffee, staying updated with the world. Technology has become an extension of ourselves, a constant companion in our daily lives. It's in our pockets, on our wrists, and even in our homes, making our lives more convenient. We use it for everything from ordering groceries to controlling the temperature, simplifying everyday tasks. This constant interaction with technology has its pros and cons, affecting our lives in various ways. Let's explore both sides of this digital coin, understanding the benefits and challenges it brings. The bright side: technology as a force for good. Technology has brought countless benefits to our lives, revolutionizing the way we live, work, and interact with each other. It has made communication easier than ever before, allowing us to stay connected with friends, family, and colleagues no matter where they are. We can connect with loved ones across the globe in an instant, bridging the gap created by physical distances. Video calls, messaging apps, and social media platforms bridge geographical distances, making the world feel smaller and more connected. In healthcare, technology is driving incredible advancements, improving patient outcomes and making treatments more accessible. Medical imaging allows doctors to see inside the human body without invasive procedures, leading to more accurate diagnoses and better care. Robotic surgery enables greater precision and faster recovery times, reducing the risks associated with traditional surgery. Telemedicine brings healthcare to remote areas, ensuring that everyone has access to medical expertise regardless of their location. Education has also been transformed by technology, providing new opportunities for learning and growth. Online courses offer flexibility and accessibility, allowing people to learn at their own pace and from anywhere in the world. Interactive learning platforms make education more engaging, helping students to stay motivated and interested in their studies. Students have a wealth of information at their fingertips, enabling them to explore new subjects and deepen their understanding. These are just a few examples of how technology is improving our lives, making everyday tasks easier and more efficient. But it's important to remember that every coin has two sides, and we must use technology responsibly to ensure it remains a force for good. The shadows it casts. Navigating technology's risks. While technology offers many benefits, it also presents challenges. One concern is technology addiction. Spending too much time online can lead to social isolation, sleep disturbances, and difficulty focusing. Privacy is another major concern. Our digital footprints can be tracked, collected, and potentially misused. It's crucial to be mindful of our online activity and protect our personal information. The spread of misinformation is another challenge. False information can spread like wildfire on social media. This can have real-world consequences, influencing opinions and even elections. It's important to approach technology with a critical eye. We must be aware of its potential downsides and use it responsibly. Section 4. Generations divided. A technological gap? Different generations have vastly different relationships with technology. Those who grew up before the internet age might find it challenging to adapt to a constantly connected world. They may struggle with smartphones, social media, or online banking. Younger generations, often called digital natives, have never known a world without the internet. They navigate the digital landscape with ease. They use technology for learning, socializing, and entertainment. This generational divide can create challenges in communication and understanding. It's important to bridge this gap by fostering digital literacy across all age groups. Section 5. A glimpse into tomorrow. Technology on the horizon. The pace of technological advancement is relentless, reshaping our world in ways we could have only imagined a few decades ago. Artificial intelligence, or AI, is rapidly evolving, promising to revolutionize industries from transportation to healthcare, making processes more efficient and effective. Virtual reality and augmented reality offer immersive experiences that blur the lines between the digital and physical worlds, creating new possibilities for entertainment, education, and work. Quantum computing has the potential to solve problems that are currently impossible for traditional computers, opening new frontiers in science and technology. Biotechnology is leading to breakthroughs in medicine, agriculture, and environmental science, offering solutions to some of the world's most pressing challenges.